Morning and welcome to the inaugural A2B Teaching and Learning with Technology conference. I'm Matt Smith,
Morning and
Program
welcome
Director
to the inaugural
for A2B, and along with the rest of the team, we're delighted you can make it to what promises to be a fantastic day full of inspirational speakers and live demonstrations of tools from Apple, Google and Microsoft. The day is split into two distinct themes. This morning is focused on vision and leadership, looking at strategies for the successful integration of technology into the classroom and beyond. The afternoon is centered around digital empowerment and features a host of live demonstrations from the A2B team, but more on that a bit later on. This morning, we welcome a variety of speakers from across the country. Eric People, head teacher at Parkhouse School in Newbury, will provide us with our opening keynote presentation, before we welcome a number of showcase schools, all presenting their approach, utilising tools from the big three, Google, Microsoft and Apple. Our morning culminates with the A2B Clinic, a discussion session answering questions sent in by you. If you have specific questions around anything EdTech, please send them in using the link on the screen below, and we'll do our best to feature them in the session. Finally, you can keep up to date throughout the day by following social media using hashtag A2BConf20, and also by accessing our Google site, which contains all of the information you need. This includes links to every single webinar taking place across the day. At this point, it's important for me to highlight that we're broadcasting live around the world from home. I'm sure you've all faced the challenges of remote working since lockdown, so please forgive us and our speakers if you hear children, dogs, or if there are any technical hitches, but fingers crossed we'll be okay. Now, obviously, we're in very strange times indeed, and the face of education has changed and is likely to change considerably over the next couple of years. This is our first conference, and originally it was planned for in-person delivery, but of course that's now changed. To explain more, I'd like to introduce Simon Pridham, Education Partner for A2B. Hello, Simon.
Good morning, Matt, and thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, Simon. So can you just outline why it was so important that we were able to proceed with the conference in what is such a challenging time?
Yeah, certainly. I think from our perspective, Matt, as a company, as you well know, it has given us a chance to sort of take a step back over the last number of months and look at the technologies we utilise. And in some respects, the technologies we promote on a daily basis, being that professional development partner of Apple, Google and Microsoft, and the only learning tech company in Europe who holds those three badges. I think we had a commitment and made a duty to provide the conference, not only for our partner schools who rely on our advice, but also the global market we push to. So I think the excellent work you guys have done, our team has done in putting this together today, is fantastic, and it does promise to be an outstanding event. I think picking up on the last few months in particular for us as a company, we talk about the difference in education that the pandemic will certainly leave a legacy for in some respects. I think for us, the ability now to take time, as we have done, and launch Aspire Ed Online, which is our learning platform, and basically put all of our training modules, which are outstanding, online for schools to utilise across the world has been a great success for us. And I know you're going to highlight some of those successes throughout the day today. And for all the guys who have registered, there will be a follow-up email, some opportunities to engage with that, which is a great product. I think blended learning will certainly be something that's here to stay for a long time within education. And again, today will help people understand the benefits of that. You'll be able to listen to people who've promoted that and are actually living and breathing that now across the UK on a daily basis. I think, like I say, it promises to be an outstanding day. So really, the last thing for me is to say a massive thank you to all the speakers who've given their time leading up to today in preparing for it, but also today giving their time to carry out keynote speeches, be around the roundtable event and everything else the guys have set up. And last but not least, a massive thank you both to you, Matt, and all the A2B team who've worked so hard to get today to this point. And like I say, I'm sure it's going to be an outstanding day for everyone concerned.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Simon. Couldn't have said it better myself. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay. So without further ado, we can begin the conference. I would like to introduce our first speaker of the day, Derek People, head teacher from Parkhouse School in Newbury. Hello, Derek.
Morning, Matt. Morning, everyone. Really good to be here. I can't offer any dogs, but there may be some children because I'm actually in school, and we've got about 50 in today. So apologies.
That's absolutely fine. No apologies necessary. Firstly, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and to provide the opening keynote today. So over to you.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed. And once again, morning, everybody. So can I start by saying it's an absolute, or perhaps more appropriately, a virtual pleasure to open what definitely promises to be an absolutely superb conference. And it couldn't be more timely or more resonant, could it? But before I explore three themes around the past, the present, and I guess critically, the future of developing a strategic vision for educational technology in schools, just a brief bit of context, which I think is also relevant to the theme. I've been the head at Parkhouse School in Newbury for 17 years. And in many ways, I think Parkhouse itself reflects those themes of past, present, and future. Its physical infrastructure is very much in the past. Our buildings, as you can see, are set in the grounds of Parkhouse itself. That's a mid-Victorian residence. It still forms the entrance to our school and the administrative heart of our school. Its present is based on an emphasis on values drawn from the world of sport. As one of the country's first specialist sports colleges, those values shape our curriculum and our digital curriculum and drive student behaviour and achievement. Its future, I guess like so many others, is based around an innovative model of blended learning, already mentioned this morning. In our case, something that's already implicit in our role as one of the country's 40 NCCE computing hub schools. More about that a little bit later. But I'm really proud to say that in this context, Aspire to Be is one of our key educational partners, the key educational partner, in providing a programme of CPD for teachers and curriculum development for young people in schools right across England at this point in time. Now, I can't see my audience in the normal way this morning, so I'm not sure if I've profoundly misjudged your age profile. I'm sharing mine though. Anyway, in the spirit of Monty Python's 1980 The Life of Brian, which at least I hope some of you've heard about, and particularly the "So what have the Romans ever done for us" scene, I'd like to pose an introductory question in seeking to explore a strategic vision for educational technology in schools. Well, actually, it's three. Firstly, what has education technology done to us before COVID-19, the past? Secondly, what is it doing for us now in what have broadly been described as the reaction and adjustment phases to curriculum delivery during lockdown? That's the here and now, the present, as we are at this moment in time. And thirdly, what can, and I guess must, it do for us as we plan for the recovery phase of learning, the blended learning phase from September when we all return. And incidentally, I would really recommend reading Matt's insights into blended learning. It was a paper that was produced on the 8th of July. It's the clearest and most illuminating, I think, I've seen. So let's start in the past. This Ladybird book was published in the year that I started primary school. Now, for the next 20 years or so, it probably contained the extent of my knowledge. In 1979, when I chose my O-level options, I wasn't actually allowed to take computer studies. It was a CSE option for a limited number of bottom stream boys, and they were all boys, based on a single BBC computer in the back cupboard of Mr. Newbury's maths classroom in Little Heath School in Reading. In 1986, the year I graduated with my history degree and the year before I started teaching, I did a 2-day Computing for Arts graduate course. 10 years later, in 1996, I opened my first email as a deputy head. Well, some of it must have stuck somewhere, or perhaps more pertinently, I had the privilege of working with some genuinely visionary practitioners who actually knew what they were talking about, because 5 years ago, I was invited by the Computing at School Network to co-present a series of videos, resources about what strategic leadership of educational and technology in schools actually might look like. And here's some of the key points I emphasised at the time. Firstly, that a vision for educational technology needs to sit at the heart of learning, not a nice to have bolt on. Articulated crucially in terms of developing young people's creativity right across the curriculum. Whilst of course then making appropriate organisational and structural changes to your leadership teams to facilitate that delivery. And that's also about a cross-phase dimension. It's about how the vision is planned also for progression. And in a moment, we've got the really visionary bit coming up. And hopefully we'll just get a move through on the slides to, there we go. If we could go back one, Greg, that'd be brilliant. It's about hubs. And there I can claim to be a prophet. It's about sharing practice and learning across organisations to develop teachers and students together. Revolutionary stuff. We'll talk a bit more about it later on. But at the heart of all of that, at that time, 5 years ago, things were very much about a choice for individual schools and individual leaders. Now, for us at Park House, it was even at that point a positive choice, consciously designed to shape whole school vision, be at the forefront of curriculum creativity, and critically also be about forming external partnerships to add additional value. And at the same time, strategically aligned to a set of values, values which shape the school's overall ethos. I referenced our sports college status in my introduction. Very specifically, prior to London 2012, we were a leading school in the Get Set Olympic and Paralympic values-themed educational programme, the first institution to get the Inspired by 2012 mark from the Cabinet Office. And for us, that was about deep cultural impact on organisation and learning. And I don't believe everything that Ofsted says, and I certainly don't include that observation by way of any self-gratification. But what it does is, I think, show how a basis for educational technology was established strategically at Park House, founded on values. And I'd like to briefly illustrate this with a few examples of the synergy between those values strategically and educational technology, and hope this stimulates some thinking about what you're already doing in your schools. Now, because education technology was at the heart of excellent teaching and learning right across the curriculum, we had secured a network of excellence status, which was a precursor to the NCC hub about sharing vision with other schools. This in turn was an opportunity to earn the respect of building strategic partnerships, friendships, if you like, with a number of key sector partners to further inspire and enhance amazing teaching and learning. More about that a little bit later on. Use of bring your own device and mobile technology was a core part of that approach, as well as finding and identifying truly unique contexts to apply digital learning. This group of students and staff forming a team of 2012 games makers, providing technological support at the Aquatic Centre in London. Now, that's a concept we've taken forward. It's about now what we call developing learning makers, not games makers, learning makers, students who give something back as volunteers, digital leaders to the school community by co-constructing an innovative curriculum and helping to support young people with their learning. In promoting educational technology as a catalyst for cross-curricular creativity, team tech has been really important to us. This group of young men from year 10 exemplifying both the commitment to digital technology and a values theme approach. Their e-water pay concept, that was providing an app-based solution to clean water supply in the Gambia, won the national competition and is actually now on the ground as a real-time solution to a developing world challenge, real resonance. And you'll have seen from that list of values, equality also features at the core. So positioning our girls at the forefront of the strategic vision for educational technology has been absolutely vital, and something we've developed in partnership with key partners, including Google and, as previously mentioned, IBM. And we have, as a result, a unique post-A-level apprenticeship pathway in place with IBM. It follows on from a sixth form internship programme over the summer. And you can see here with Sadie. Sadie's is the young woman that you'll have seen in the previous slide, the far left, under the T of Think. And she became, 2 years ago, National Apprentice of the Year as a result of participation in the programme. And these young women have the opportunity to act as digital ambassadors at the educational technology events we develop with those partners. And to the right is Grace. And Grace is now part of the IBM apprenticeship programme post A-level as one of the keynote speakers you can see here back at the launch of our NCCE Computer Hub programme back in November of last year, which was wonderful to have Matt, Simon and Aspire to be actually present at. This was very special. Very, very special indeed, because it's through the hub that we're building the partnership with Aspire to Be in the delivery of CPD to hundreds of teachers across the country now and over the next 3 years. That's of massive strategic importance. Which brings us nicely to the present. And on the 23rd of March, the educational world, as we know, like so much else, changed forever. And the strategic use of education technology was no longer ever again, was it, going to be about choice? A disruptor. Now, I believe disruptor was the phrase first used in 1995 by an American business consultant, Clayton Christensen, to describe innovative displacement of existing market leaders in industry and business. But it's never been more relevant to our sector, has it? COVID-19 already educationally the ultimate disruptor. And if we reflect upon that disruption, firstly in the curriculum, I think we can identify 3 clear phases in terms of delivery. First, reaction. That was from the sudden announcement of lockdown from the 23rd of March through to the Easter holidays, when I guess many schools scrambled to put in place some form of offer to provide continuity of learning over the ensuing 2 weeks. Secondly, adjustment. Now, I guess that's the phase that we're in now and beginning to transition out of, whereby there's been more coherent and extended planning of the structured and increasingly blended curriculum offer, blended real-time in-school learning for some year groups, with a continued virtual offer experienced at home. And thirdly, recovery. The phase we will move into in September and need to plan for now, where the long-term benefits of the education technology approaches that we've been applying in these 2 phases of disruption are now systematically and strategically developed as part of, a key part of, an integral part of a strategic vision for learning in the future. So that's the curriculum. But of course, this disruption at present and the reaction and in the reaction and adjustment phases wasn't just about curriculum delivery. And I've frequently asked myself, as I'm sure you have, what would have happened if we'd have been dealing with this 30 or 40 years ago? Because education technology has been so critical to ongoing communication, as we are here this morning, and building a sense of community, maintaining a sense of community, holding schools together virtually through a series of platforms, sharing ideas, discussing approaches, as well as engaging parents in the educational process. Which brings us to the future, or maybe even back to it. In thinking about that future, this is a book that I've always found insightful. I'm sure many of you have also come across it. It was written in 2014 and it reflects on the interface between technology and economic and social change in a variety of contexts. Now, it's called the second machine age, just the second machine age, because it focuses on the disruptive and transformational impact of digital technology following, I remember I'm a history teacher once upon a time, the first machine age, the Industrial Revolution of the late 18th century, based upon the disruption of steam power. But in the section of the book that focuses on the implications of digital technology for education moving forward, the authors write a chapter which is headed to Switch the Skills, Switch the Schools. Now, in that chapter, they cite the work of another education researcher, Sugrita Mitra, who in his 2013 award-winning TED Talk said the following: I tried to look at where did the kind of learning we do in schools come from. It came from the last and biggest of the empires on this planet, the British Empire. What they did was amazing. They created a global computer made up of people. It is still with us today. It's called the bureaucratic administrative machine. In order to have that machine running, you need lots and lots of people. They made another machine to produce those people, the school. The school should produce the people who would then become parts of the bureaucratic administrative machine. They must know three things. They must have good handwriting, because the data is handwritten. They must also be able to read, and they must also be able to do multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction in their head. They must be so identical that you could pick one up from New Zealand and ship them to Canada, and they would be instantly functional. In essence, then, an education system, an approach to learning, entirely fit for purpose and for its time in mid-Victorian Britain and across its empire, based on the 3 R's, but which continues to shape schooling nearly 200 years later. As Mitra concludes, the Victorians were great engineers. They engineered a system that was so robust that it's still with us today, continuously producing identical people for a machine that no longer exists. So, then additionally referencing the work of Venkatram, they go on to articulate the challenge for us as we shape a strategic vision for educational technology, I believe, in our COVID adjustment phase from September. This is about a fundamental shift in thinking and approach. It's not just a technology overlay on old models of teaching and learning. It needs to be something different. And as leaders and teachers, we must now seize that moment, not to tinker in the margins, but to remodel and to formulate a new and genuinely blended approach to learning by doing the following. In my view, disciplining the ongoing disruption, embracing it, embracing the potential learning that we have now to sustain from the rapid adjustments made over the last 3 months, so that the creativity of the recovery phase is consolidated as a base, a springboard, if you like, from which we can collectively, as schools and educators, take a leap forward. L in leap, for learning which is genuinely blended. And to revisit the previous quote from Venkatram, is not just an overlay on old pedagogy, but is new and takes account of change and development. E, for recognising efficiency and the effectiveness of recent approaches, and how they can energise entire communities, all stakeholders in our schools, in learning. Through disruption, parents have never been more aware or involved in the challenges of learning. A, for crucially continuing to be agile in adopting and embracing new technology as a driver of learning and school improvement. And as leaders, assertive in its promotion within and across our schools, teams and departments, so this momentum is not lost. And finally, P in the leap, for partnerships. As a school leader, I've been the head of 2 schools, I've been a senior leader in schools for a quarter of a century. I've never seen the technology of learning prompt more inter-school discussion about shared best practice than over the last 3 months. There's been more discussion, I believe, within schools and across schools, critically, than I can remember in the totality of that last quarter of a century. And it's also begun to open up discussions, really powerful discussions, about how we can collaborate more effectively in the future around curriculum delivery, whether that's with partners like Aspire to Be, as ed technology does not recognise the boundaries of a school gate. Now, of course, that's not an argument for the end of schools as we know them, as diverse, distinctive communities with their own identities, their own culture, their own values. We all still want a job, and we probably want to do it in the school that we recognise and we associate with. And of course, as Aristotle so astutely pointed out in the 4th century BC, that's not before COVID, by the way, that human interaction is, after all, what makes us human. However, the way in which we now interact, the way in which that interaction takes place, and as leaders, our strategic vision for its education context has never needed to be more flexible, more innovative, or indeed more blended. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Derek. I'm sure everyone watching found that hugely inspirational and insightful. I certainly did. So much to take away from it. It's quite difficult to know where to start, actually. But I think there's a couple of things that I particularly liked in that. Firstly, that the way you use LEAP as a kind of guidance as to how we can approach certainly some of the challenges that we have. We may have a couple of questions from some of the audience, but just to kick things off. What I found interesting is, particularly drawing on your experience, we know that culture in particular is absolutely vital, not just for digital change, but any change. What advice, I suppose, or how do you prepare your staff and anyone who's looking to instigate digital change, some kind of tips and advice on how they could potentially prepare their staff for that cultural change?
Great question. Thank you, Matt. I think the seizing the moment bit, and I guess the agility and assertive bit in that A is possibly the critical one here, and it's a totally different paradigm to how I think, if I reflect upon my previous leadership experience, you know, potentially you've built existing culture or look to build on it. I've been the head of 2 specialist sports colleges. What did that mean? What did it mean about sharing those values, if you like, cold, and how you continue to work on that? But the experience that I guess all of our educators have had, our teams have had, is to recognise the relevance and resonance of this, and that no longer around that element of choice. This is around a desired direction of travel. And I think, despite the challenges that colleagues may have experienced, I guess we're all at a different place upon you know, a spectrum in terms of where we might be in terms of our skill sets and so forth. But it's a moment to capture that responsiveness, that agility, and to say, for the benefits of our young people, because that's what we're here to do. Culturally, we have to continue that move forward. And I think this has enabled a recognition, perhaps, that there might not have previously been. And I think our role as leaders now is to capture that and do what we would always do then as leaders, which is the constant, I guess, reinforcement of the benefits that it will bring to our young people. But at one sense, we're pushing at the virtual open door here because of the experience that there's been.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think we all know how challenging this time is in particular, and however you reference blended learning and however you talk about it, it's really trying to seize any positive opportunity that we can from what is a horrific situation, and try and use it to move forward, as you say, for the benefit of the young people. So I think you summed that up absolutely perfectly.
It's the positivity, isn't it, of our role as leaders to seize that moment. This is no longer about challenge; it's about the opportunity.
Absolutely. Derek, thank you so much for providing that keynote presentation for us. We are going to move on now, so we will let you go. But once again, thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Pleasure. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you, Matt.
No problem at all. Okay, so moving on with the day, I'd like to introduce one of our learning technologists, Ryan Evans. Hello, Ryan.
Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. Ryan, can you just give us a very quick overview of what we can expect for this next part of the morning, please?
Yeah, excellent. So to move on then, so we're very proud at Aspire to be the fact we're the only company in Europe to hold professional development partner status for the big three, that being Apple, Google and Microsoft. So that being said, what we've decided to do with some of the morning now then is give equal time to the big three, to the three tech giants. And well, in no particular order whatsoever, we're going to start with Microsoft. We're going to spend about 30 minutes speaking to some people really working on the front face using Microsoft in education.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you to everyone for tuning in so far. I'll pass over to Ryan now, and I will see you all later on.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so to kick us off then, it gives me great privilege to welcome Jennifer King to our virtual conference this morning. Jennifer, thanks for giving up some of your time. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
That's no problem. Thanks for joining us. So, Jennifer, firstly, your role at Microsoft then, Schools Engagement Lead across the whole of the UK. I've got to say, firstly, that's a fantastic role and responsibility there. And I think I'm just going to hand over straight to you to tell us a bit of an overview, perhaps, on the role and how Microsoft have been doing recently, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Will do. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Here we go.
Yes, wonderful. Yes, so I am the UK Schools Engagement Lead for Microsoft, which is an absolute privilege and honor to look after the 30,000 schools in England and UK, Scotland and Wales. And how we can help teachers make their lives easier. How can we increase student attainment? How can we bring the 21st century into classrooms? I absolutely loved the presentation before, the Industrial Revolution, such a huge impact. The fact that we're going through a fourth one right now, we absolutely need to be agile to that. And tech is a great way of doing that. So do connect with me on Twitter. I'm at Jen King, _. And on LinkedIn, you can also find me. So today I'm going to be talking about my role as a and about Microsoft Education. But I just wanted to start off by saying that we have recently released a white paper, and it's about hybrid learning. So we are going through an unprecedented time. We're moving into a September where things are a little bit uncertain on what school looks like. And for school leaders that are listening on this call, I just wanted to let you know that there is a white paper called Education Reimagined on the Future of Learning about hybrid learning, and some different creative ways that we can move into this new future, this new form of education. It talks about the phases that we've gone through, the phases that we're going into, key questions that you want to consider as you do your planning and you think about what's coming next. So I do encourage all of you to check that out. So my role, I get to look after the Microsoft Innovative Educator expert community and our trainers and our fellows, and it is such an honor to work with them. We have had record numbers of applications for our MIEE program, which closes today. July 15th was the deadline, so you still have chance until midnight tonight to get in those applications. So please do. We would love to have you part of our community. We have a great time. We have lots of different programs within our community. We have our certified MIE, Microsoft Innovative Educator. You achieve this by going on to our online learning platform called the MEC, Microsoft Educator Center, and you earn some points and you start using it in the classroom. Once you start using it in the classroom, you can then apply to become an MIE expert. Once you become an expert, you're going to start realizing that you like talking about this stuff. You like sharing with colleagues. You're noticing that your students are achieving more. You notice that you have more time. Things are easier. And so you might want to start sharing that with people around you. And then that's when you can gain your MIE trainer status as you grow your influence. And then as you become a really integral part in our community, where maybe you're leading a whole region of MIEEs yourself, then you graduate into the MIE Fellows program. Now, I wanted just to show this little video. Hopefully it will work. If it doesn't, that's okay. By Lanny Watkins from Wales, and sharing with you why he's part of our community.
It makes me feel special that I've been given the opportunity to be part of this wonderful community. I've been inspired by the things that I've seen other teachers doing, and through getting ideas from them and working alongside them, I've been able to take ideas that would suit the needs of my children and help and support them to actually be more and do more and raise aspirations and inspire them as well.
Wonderful. So Lanny is also an MIE fellow for the region of Wales. I feel like everyone in Wales knows Lanny. He is an absolute inspiration, hosting Coffee and Tech on Hub, and he is just a fantastic asset. So do reach out to him if you are interested in learning more. So do visit our Microsoft Educator Center. We have thousands of courses to help you transform your classroom. They're bite-sized. They will help you start your journey, and they're by teachers for teachers. If you're a school leader, then we have courses for you on there as well. We have a course about leading schools of 2030, getting started with Office 365 for leadership, and it's a great way to create a whole school professional development plan. You also can come and learn directly from Microsoft at our Inspire Days. You can go to aka.ms Education Inspire Days, and you'll be able to do it for leadership groups. So groups of head teachers and SLTs will come together and they will chat about digital transformation across their school. Or you can do a Teacher Inspire Day. Both of them exist within the team's demo tenancy, so you get to have a hands-on experience of what it's really like to be in there. You'll learn all about creating an engaged digital classroom using all of our tools and technology. And if you're a leader, you're really going to be thinking about the possibilities of transformation. And then you have our Showcase Schools program, which the deadline closes on August 15th. So you still have plenty of time to put in for our Showcase Schools, which really talks about all the different, it looks across your whole school on your digital transformation. So do go to the MEC and become a CMIE. Once you start using it, definitely apply to be an MIE expert. Our deadline is today, so if you don't make it, that's okay. We'll have another application deadline of January 30th. And then our application deadline for our Showcase Schools is August 15th. And you can, oops. I accidentally clicked on the link and now you're seeing my PowerPoint. Sorry. Let me get there. You can, if you're a school leader, you can go to aka.ms/edujourney, and you can see where you are on that education transformation journey to help you understand if you're ready for your Showcase School status. So do please apply today to become a part of our community. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Jennifer. It's really good to, well, the fact you've mentioned MIE Expert, that's led me seamlessly into our first school showcase now coming up next. So Jennifer, thank you very much again. It's been really informative, I'm sure. And like you said, there's still time to get those applications in before the end of the day. Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, so like I've said, seamlessly taking us into our first showcase school now then. What I'd like to do is introduce a really good friend of us all here at Aspire to Be. She has a fantastic CV, which includes being a Welsh Assembly Government digital pioneer, an MIE expert, both a Pearson and NDLE award-winning, and most importantly then, an inspirational teacher at Broughton Primary, Kelly Goodall. Kelly, good morning.
Just turn me off mute. Good morning.
Hiya, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I won't spoil too much of your presentation now, so I'm just going to hand straight over to you, and we'll have a catch-up after your presentation.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Yep, okay, right. So, yeah, so this is all about using Microsoft technologies at Broughton Primary School, which is where I work. Ryan's already kind of done a bit of an overview about me, but not much left to say really. But I was part of the team that wrote the DCF and also part of the team that wrote the new curriculum for Wales. And I'm currently a Year 5 teacher at Broughton, moved into Year 6 in September, and I'm the digital learning leader at Broughton. So a bit about our school. We're a primary school in North Wales in Flintshire, and we've got over 550 learners on roll. We recently had Estin this time last year almost, and we've been judged as excellent in all the areas. And we're thoroughly enjoying using Microsoft through Hub across the whole school. So I'm going to just kind of share with you some of the ways that we've used the technologies, give you some examples and hopefully a little bit of inspiration. First of all, why Microsoft? Well, lots of people kind of like ask why, and you can see here anyone that teaches in Wales will recognise these as being the 4 purposes. And hopefully throughout the presentation, I'm going to kind of talk to you about how using Microsoft technologies can hit all these 4 purposes and help enhance the 4 purposes really, and how they can just enhance the whole learning experience for learners. So first of all, the Microsoft Educator Centre, if you haven't visited there, I know Jen's just mentioned it, but I definitely recommend going for a visit. We use it quite frequently for our professional learning activities with staff. So all our staff are certified MIEs, and hopefully my aim next year is to get a few more of them to MIE expert status. I know Jen's already touched upon it, but it really is an amazing program to be part of. It opens up a wider global network, and the support, the ideas, the inspiration, and the opportunities, professional learning opportunities are amazing. I've been to Singapore with Microsoft. I've presented at BET. It's just an amazing program to be part of. So I highly recommend get your application in today if you can. Okay, so Teams is obviously been widely used in many schools throughout lockdown. We kind of started using Teams, first of all, just to replace our old staff common, our old server, because it was getting full. So it became like a place to put all our policies, all our documents on, all our planning on and things. And it's kind of grown from there. It's a great communication tool. I mean, as I said, over lockdown, amazing for video calls and that communication. So that kind of forms the core really of what we do. And then we're going to talk a little bit about inclusive classrooms, because I think this is really important. And I think this is at the heart of what we do at Broughton, is that, you know, we're a very nurturing school, and being inclusive is absolutely key. You know, we want all children to have rich learning opportunities. And I'm going to share with you now just a couple of ways with which Microsoft can help you do that. Some really simple but powerful ways that I've discovered. So I was doing having a look on the Educator Centre, and I come across a dyslexia awareness course. So I did that, had a little look, really got me thinking about some of the children in my class, some of the children that had maybe not been diagnosed being dyslexic, but were definitely struggling with how they access the curriculum. So that brought me on to have a little play around with immersive reading. If you've not seen immersive read, if there's one thing you take away from today, is that go and try it, because this has absolutely opened up a whole new world for a couple of learners in my class. And I'm hoping these videos are going to work. Let's see. This is a child in my class. This is him reading. It's the first time he'd seen this text. And literally we just swapped from reading it from the book to reading it in immersive reader. So rather than me talk about immersive reader and what it does, I think it's better and more powerful to just share with you these videos.
Once one morning, at breakfast, Mama Bear said we must stop taking about of looking what into her windows. The app.
Okay, so as you can see from that, he really struggled. He got a lot of the words wrong. I didn't correct any of them, which went straight into, so we got an app called Office Lens, which I'm going to talk about in a second, and we scanned it and opened it up in immersive reader. He picked which background colour he wanted. He also picked which font he wanted, and just listen to the difference. It's amazing.
Morning at breakfast, Mama Bear said we must start thinking about our long winter's nap.
So you can see the difference. The first clip was about 1:30, and the second one is about 20 odd seconds long. So he was just so much more fluent reading it. And then you can see there when he wasn't sure of a word, he just clicked on it and he could hear that word as well. So this child, because I got in touch actually with Aspire2B and showed them these videos, and they very kindly donated an iPad for this child, so that now he can just have an iPad sitting on his desk. It's just another tool, just like his pencil case or anything else, so that he can scan any text with Office Lens, pop it into immersive reader. He can also do that with my writing on the whiteboard. So because quite often it's quite hard for dyslexic children to read on that white background, so he can now just get his iPad, scan it, and then it just pops into immersive reader. But for that child, that's just opened up a world of opportunities. It's made the curriculum so much more accessible to him. So that's probably the most powerful tool that I've ever used. I've been teaching 12 years, and that's definitely up there. There we go. And just in case you've not used it before and you're looking for maybe the apps, there's the Office Lens app and the Immersive Reader app there as well. Sorry, the Office Lens app and then the Immersive Reader button, which is built into all the Microsoft technologies. Also Dictate, another one that's sometimes a little bit underused, but again, makes your classroom so much more accessible. So we use the online Word and PowerPoint through Hub quite a lot, and children like the child you just saw then will happily, I've taught them how to use the Dictate button, so when they get a bit stuck they can just talk into the computer and it will just type it for them. So that child in particular likes to kind of do a bit of both, so he'll do a bit of mix and matching, and when he gets a little bit stuck with getting his words out, he'll just speak it. And again, it's still sharing his ideas, it's just recording it in a different way. Okay, so we're going to talk about Flipgrid, which is another one of my favourites. So if you haven't heard about Flipgrid, it's a social learning platform, and you can create and share short videos on there. Videos up to 10 minutes at the moment, and it's just an amazing, amazing tool. Again, another one, if you haven't done it, you haven't given it a go, try it out. And there's loads of people on Twitter as well that can help you get started. I'm just going to share with you some of the ways we've used it before lockdown and during lockdown, because it's been a really powerful tool during lockdown for keeping that community feel alive. So here's some of the children in my class. You can see here they've got the Welsh flag. This was them practicing their poetry recital in Welsh, and we then shared that with a local high school, and the students there gave peer assessments that we could improve our poetry recital. We've also connected with children in Australia just to be friends and to learn about life in a different country. We've connected with children in the USA via Grid Pals. Teacher there taught us some strategies to use mindfulness in the classroom. We've done it for drama, so we filmed our drama, and then we've kind of we've looked back on it and peer assessed it, self-assessed it. We've also used Flipgrid AR, which is basically where you can bring the videos to life and you can stick a QR code on your work, so that I've got posters around my room where it's the human body and the children have drawn around themselves, put the organs in. You can literally just go and scan that QR code, up will pop a Flipgrid video of my children talking about different parts of the body. My 9 has even made a Flipgrid video. So when we learned about war, my children left some questions for her, and she took my computer to her at the weekend, and then she responded to them all and told them all about what life was like as a child in World War II. So it's really powerful, and you're only limited by your imagination. You can just keep going and going with Flipgrid. It's just amazing. And then during lockdown, like I said, it's just been great for keeping that sense of community still alive. So I've done things like having check-ins. We've done pet parades, which was lovely. Loads of children love just sharing, tricks their pets could do, or just introducing their pets, things that they wouldn't get a chance to do really if we were in school. We've done birthday shout outs, so anyone that's had a birthday over lockdown, their friends have been able to leave Flipgrid videos saying happy birthday. And we've also hosted a Broughton's Got Talent competition where children have shared whatever talents they may have, and then we had a bit of a competition and we had a winner at the end of it. And then we've got the Flipgrid Shorts Cam. So on the Flipgrid Shorts Cam, we've that's been really useful during lockdown, especially with the whole blended learning approach as well. So I've been able to create videos. You can share screens in your Shorts Cam. You can use the whiteboard, so that's been handy for any maths tutorials in particular. And you can see here I've got you can see the one Welcome to Year 6. That was me the other day making a video for my new class when I go into Year 6. I thought, because they're not going to get a chance to actually see me in person, it'd be quite nice to leave a video. So all the staff actually in Key Stage 2 left a video for their new class. So that's the Shorts camera, but again, another really good one to just have a little play around with and use in class or whatever September looks like. So again, just Flipgrid can really bring out that creative side in children and teachers. You've got lots of different options. So if you've got a child, like I've got a couple of children who are quite shy and don't like to use the camera, but Flipgrid have got filters, so you can actually pixelate their face. So that's worked really well in my class with 2 children in particular. You've also got sticky notes, which if you look at the screen, you can see a little post-it note on the side. So they can actually make notes and they can actually plan what they're going to say. So thinking a little bit more about their video. And top tip as well, drag your sticky note up to the top of your screen. Actually looks then like you're talking into the camera, and doesn't look like you're reading the notes. So, and then I teach my children then about editing and trimming things, adding more to it. And there's just so much more to Flipgrid than just making a video. And it's getting the children to see that and go that extra mile. And we're going back to accessibility, because Flipgrid, fantastic, has immersive reader built into it as well. So every task that you put up there, any children that need immersive reader can just click on the little immersive reader button, and they can either hear the instructions being said, or they can obviously read it with that background and the special fonts that we saw before. So that's really useful. Okay, so Skype in the classroom, another Microsoft technology, and again, just as powerful. And you can see some pictures here of just some ways that that we've used it. You can see there's children there. They look like they're lying on the floor. They're actually doing yoga with a teacher in India. That was like a week-long activity that we did where we connected with different teachers from all around the world because they wanted to see what classrooms look like, and then we ended up doing yoga. And then we've also got, this was my favorite one, you can see on the other side of the screen, we connected with an astronaut, a retired NASA astronaut. So you can just imagine, like, that was our space topic. Imagine how excited they were when I told them we were actually going to speak to a real astronaut. So we watched some of his launches on YouTube, and some of the videos he'd made up in space, and then we actually got to speak to him in person. That was just mind-blowing. It was just amazing, and it just knocks down the walls of your classroom. It brings the world into your classroom. I could never take them to India to learn yoga. I could never take them to go and meet a NASA astronaut. The learning opportunities that you can get from just, clicking a couple of buttons and using a bit of technology is absolutely, it's amazing. And then we've got everybody's favorite, or every child's favorite anyway, Minecraft. So this one here, we've got a picture here. This is what we've just been actually doing during lockdown, and with some of the children that were coming back in for their catch-up sessions. So we could have all the children playing on the same world, which is great. And this one was built actually by a child and her dad, and they've built a burial chamber in Anglesey, which is about an hour away from us. So it's actually somewhere that once everywhere opens back up, the children can actually go and visit it in real life if they wanted to. But again, they're exploring that. There were signs everywhere. So they were learning about Welsh history as they went along. They'd never even heard of this site, even though they'd all been to Anglesey, or most of them had been to Anglesey. So really powerful. We've done things like when we did our space topic, we researched about the ISS, and then they created it as a team. So you think, you've got your DCF skills are so rich in just one Minecraft activity. The fact that they've had to research, so you've got your digital citizenship and you're producing, then they've made things in Minecraft and the teamwork that comes with that as well, and the planning that goes into it, and the reflecting and the evaluation. So just a really, really powerful tool, but something that some teachers are a little bit scared to use, but there's loads of resources out there that make it really simple to get started, and loads of MIE experts that would love to help you as well. So just get in touch. And then finally, the Microbit, a really cheap piece of kit, but a really powerful piece of kit. So when we did our space topic, we decided that we were learning about how to train like an astronaut, so like the preparation that goes into an astronaut's life really before they go up to space. So we were looking at fitness and exercise as well. So we made a pedometer with the Microbit, and then we popped it into an Excel spreadsheet, and we did some science investigations based on the children wanted to know, does shoe size affect your stride and the amount of steps that you do? And then some of them wanted to look at their height and things. So again, great opportunity to get the DCF in there, and learn about spreadsheets and how to manipulate the data in those. So that's just a bit of a whistle-stop tour, really, of just some of the things that we use at Broughton and how we use them. And hopefully it's given you a little bit of inspiration. If you've got any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm on Twitter at Kelly_digital. And also you've got your Microsoft, if anybody wants the redeemable code, then it's there for you as well.
Kelly, thank you so much. That was really inspiring. I enjoyed that. Obviously, a teacher and a whole school really that are using technology to really inspire each other. The story about obviously Office Lens into immersive reader, that's something as myself as a big advocate, if you like, of assistive tech and of supporting ALN, that was excellent. Love the fact that Aspire2B have helped with that, with the donation of that iPad. So that's really nice to hear how sort of the dream became a reality, if you like.
Yeah.
Flipgrid, again, for me, I'm surprised you didn't mention it because it's one of my favorite stories with regards to Flipgrid. The one I've seen on Twitter with your gran.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know whether everyone had been fed up of hearing about that.
Oh no, I think it's excellent. It's a big. I've used that myself as a sort of case study. I've mentioned what you did. Can you explain briefly what you did there, please?
Yes, basically, we were learning about war, and it brought in pupil voice drives everything that we do. So the children were like, "Can we speak to someone who's lived in World War II?" And I was like, "Oh my God, how can we do that?"
Yeah.
Well, I thought 9 because she was a child during World War II. But then went to. So I can hear myself echoing back. So then, thought of no way we're going to get 9 on a Skype call because she doesn't use technology at all. So we thought, you know what, we'll leave our questions on Flipgrid. So then took my computer, and then she responded on Flipgrid. Absolutely amazing. I've got those videos forever now.
Oh, that's excellent. That's really good, especially with obviously the new curriculum in Wales. You know, inviting you to have sort of real world activities as well. And obviously you mentioned the astronaut. And Minecraft, and it's really embracing. It sounds like it's going really well at Broughton.
So the new curriculum is all around, you know, the heart is like the learning experiences that we provide for the children, and technology can just break down those walls and those barriers, can't it?
Yeah, excellent. Brings me to my first question then, really. It's evident that the school, the teachers, the staff, the pupils, everybody's engaged for some time now with the digital vision. What about the community around the school? So parents, guardians, etc. What has been like perhaps traditionally, you know, in the past, and particularly now during the pandemic?
Yeah, we're really lucky. The whole school community is really positive, and parents have always seemed to be on board as well as the staff and as well as the learners. During the last few months, we've had lots of positive feedback from parents. In fact, so much so we've just actually started to collate it, just that we can actually have a look at the lovely feedback, because sometimes it's nice just during this time to have a bit of positivity and to appreciate all the hard work the staff have put into it. But we were quite lucky before lockdown, because our children were quite already set up and they were already using things quite well. So which did mean that the whole distance learning, ran a bit more smoothly. But our assistant head made sure that we had a very consistent approach to how we set tasks for the children. And it's worked really well. And the parents and the children have been really supportive and they've engaged.
Excellent. Okay, then, so flipping it, if you like, because obviously the school are very well on their way, if you like, advanced in using ed tech. For somebody perhaps watching now then who's perhaps near the start of their digital transformation, what advice would you give someone at the start?
Make sure you've got an action plan and be ready to obviously reflect upon that constantly and change constantly. Ideally, if it can be part of the SDP, that's great, because then digital becomes everybody's priority and not just falling on the shoulders of a middle leader. Infrastructure is probably the place to start, isn't it, really? Because without that, nothing's possible, and without that, you lose the confidence of staff as well. So if that's probably key in making that as flexible as possible and future-proofing it as much as possible. Thinking about devices, I've seen lots of schools who have just gone out and bought devices and maybe not knowing what to do with them, or you get companies coming in and trying to, you'll get Apple trying to say you just need iPads, everyone needs a one-to-one iPad. I've always kind of stayed away from that. I always believe that you should have a range of devices. We're quite lucky. We've got iPads and we've got Chromebooks, and I just believe by the time the children get into year 5, year 6, that ideally you want them to be digitally competent enough that they're picking the right device for the right job. Because that's what we do as adults, don't we? We might use our phone to do online shopping, but we might use our laptop to do our work. And I know that Flipgrid works really well on my Surface, so I'd use that. And so you just pick the right tool for the right job. So I think devices is really important. And then professional learning, obviously that's another one that's probably at the core, because you need staff to be on board with it. Invest in time, and like I said in my presentation, the Microsoft Educator Centre has just been really good for that as well. And you do get the staff that love to get the badges and the points as well, so they learn even more. And just like people having time to learn and make mistakes, found it very useful to actually like ask people to go away and try something and then come back and share what went well, what went wrong, sort any problems out and issues out, and that's worked really well. And just Simon Pridham constantly said this. It's one thing I remember when I first met Simon.
I was waiting for it.
Yes. There's no, what was it? There's no magic dust in a device. It doesn't replace good quality teaching and learning, just enhances it.
Time, training, and trust.
Yeah, and a hot biscuit or two to get through.
Quite right. To be fair, Ken, everything you've said there, I couldn't agree more with. It's allowing the pupils to have multiple or access to multiple devices. That really then sparks the digital competence, and it's great for us when we are in schools that we see, you know, one pupil could be working on a Chromebook and somebody else doing the same learning objective on a completely different device, and that's a really nice way of thinking about it. No, that's great. So thank you very much for your presentation and your time. I know you're back in school this afternoon.
Yep, I'm heading back in now. I've got a classroom to sort out.
Oh, perfect. No, really appreciate it. Enjoy a bit of a break over the summer holidays, and we'll see you soon.
Too. Thank you.
Thanks,
see
Kelly.
you.
Okay, now then, that was the Microsoft Showcase session this morning. So now we're going to focus on Apple Education. So as the only Apple professional learning provider in Europe, I'm now going to bring back Matt, Aspire2B's program director. Matt, if you're there, as a fellow APLS, Apple Professional Learning Specialist, can you sort of give us a bit of an overview then of how Apple have been directly supporting education at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically all of Apple's kind of tools and approach are really centered around these three core strands. So obviously a lot of that is about the user experience and making sure devices are fit for purpose, that they're intuitive. That of course leads on to accessibility. And I've always found that the accessibility features within particularly iPad devices are some of the hidden gems, I think. And Ryan, as the inclusion and additional learning needs specialist for Aspire2B, you know this better than most, that there's a huge amount that you can gain from those iPad devices to make sure that all teaching and learning is accessible for all students. And then also creativity. There are a fantastic range of creative tools within the Apple ecosystem, and some of which we'll have a look shortly. Now, in terms of how you can gain insight into what Apple can offer, but also how Apple actually learn about how they can continually improve a lot of the different services and how they can support education, there's a number of key strands, if you will. So Apple Distinguished Schools serve as a place where they are continually reinforming the cycle of teaching and learning to continually improve Apple products and services. Apple Distinguished Educators are around the world, and they are educators who have really showcased how Apple technologies can help in a variety of ways. Ongoing research is always taking place as well, and quite often thought leaders and organizations feeding into sessions and think tanks and just continually reinforming, as I say, how those Apple products can really transform teaching and learning, which is really important. In terms of some of the ways that Apple share their content, you've got a fantastic series of books in the leadership range. So these are accessible on the bookstore, free to download, and there's so much information in there which really gets you thinking and actually lends itself to all sorts of technology. But obviously there is a focus on how can you get the best from your Apple technologies as a leadership group, and these really start to get you thinking, not just on the basics, but you can see that first book there, Innovation in Schools, is a great starting point, and really get you thinking about it from the off. Is how can you use these tools innovatively rather than just as a kind of replacement activity. You've also got the Apple Teacher Learning Center. The service here is free to join. It's jam-packed with news. You've got lots of information about student projects and how you can run some activities. There are real teacher stories, which are always helpful, so you can try and find out a bit more about how teachers are using them in the classroom. There are a load of resources for lots of Apple technologies, including Macs and Mac OS as well. And there's some guides. If you're looking to get started with Apple Teacher for your school, there's actually an Apple Teacher at Your School guide, along with a presentation, which will help you facilitate some of the discussions, possibly in a staff meeting or a twilight session or inset day, just to kind of get you started. There's also some relatively new features. So it's now available on iPhone as well. you can gain progress reports, printable certificates, and once you've actually achieved your Apple Teacher credential, you can now sing about that and put it onto your social media using the profile frames. And there are another host of online learning resources which are constantly being added, including some advanced search functionality, so you can pinpoint exactly what it is that you're looking for. And you also have the Everyone Can Create series of books. These are fantastic. You can see there it's broken down into a number of different strands. This serves two purposes. It gives you a bit of an insight into how to use it as a teacher and how you can start facilitating some lessons, but it does also have lesson ideas in there and lesson guides. So it really is a bit of a one-stop shop, if you will, to getting started with some of the Apple resources. So that's pretty much it. But the first place I'd urge everyone to go, if you're looking into this, is to get stuck into the Apple Teacher Centre, work through some of those activities and gain your badge. And then from there, who knows?
I think, again, I've been teed up expertly, Matt. Thank you very much for that.
Pleasure.
That introduction to Apple Education then has seamlessly taken into our second Showcase School presentation now then. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Rhys Jones. He's digital lead at Keynote Primary in Bridgend in South Wales. Rhys, welcome.
Good morning. Morning, Ryan. How's things?
Good morning. Very good. Firstly, big congratulations are in order, I believe. Newly appointed Science and Tech AULE lead at the school. Excellent news.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks very much. Yeah, really good. Really pleased.
Good stuff. I'm sure you'll mention a couple of steps on your plans and aspirations in your role coming up. So I won't take any more of your thunder. I'll leave you be, and we'll catch up after your presentation.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ryan. Great. Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rhys. I'll be talking to you about our digital strategy with Apple and how we've developed our blended learning approach really since the current circumstances have arisen. I'll also be talking to you about our vision for the future and offering an insight into how we use Apple in school, really. So a bit of context about our school. We are opened in sort of 5 years ago. We built into a new large housing development, and we're one of the only Apple schools in the area. And the previous IT lead, he pioneered really the use of Apple products and software in the school. So we've grown from quite a small village school really to almost 500 pupils now in the past 5 years. So that's given us some hurdles and challenges to overcome. And we also had a few sort of changes in regards to management over the last few years as well. But now we've got a strong leadership team in place, which has allowed us to move forward in many areas really. And I think it's been an excellent last couple of years really. So and a bit of sort of personal context really as well. I've been teaching about 4 years myself. I came into the school as IT coordinator, and I've really sort of developed my experience in school really. There's been some many ups and downs, but we're a work in progress really in regards to where we are at the moment. But there's been great steps that have taken us forward. So I attended the Apple Learning Institute back in November last year, and in regards to using Apple products in school, it really sort of transformed my approach, and it allowed me to reflect on how I work as a teacher, first and foremost. And how we can move forward in using technology in school. So as Matt mentioned, those We Love to Create books are really, really useful. I've had some excellent ideas and information from those personally. And yeah, they're a great place to start really if you do use Apple products in your school. So here, this is a bit of a sort of basic insight really into where we were in the past at the beginning of our journey. We sort of, when the school opened, we purchased, all of the Apple products, I guess you could say. And when I came to the school, I hadn't used any Apple products at all really. So it was a big learning, learning journey really to understand and gain understanding on how to use these products effectively. And over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, that's developed, I think, and not just for myself, it's for all of the school as well, which it's been a great journey to be on, really. And a lot of the teachers now, they feel very confident, and that filters down then to the pupils as well. So It did take some time to develop the confidence in using it, but that's just come from, you know, having sort of positive leadership, I guess, in regards to using these products effectively. So in the present, we are sort of consolidating our skills, things we've developed over the last couple of years. I'm looking to develop the Apple teacher training program as well within the school. And then in regards to infrastructure, we've invested in new hardware to replace our older iPads, iPad 2s, which we've also looking to purchase as well. Then the Apple Pencils, then, which are going to help in regards to mainly Key Stage 1 and developing pencil control. And so during lockdown as well, we just established a tech team for IT. So there's 3 teachers. We've created an online an email address that we could then talk to parents and the community in regards to any issues they may have during lockdown. So this is something which is quite new, and which it's been running for about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I would say. And then I'll talk to you a little bit later about our blended learning approach during lockdown, which incorporates the use of Macs and iPads. And also then with the new curriculum coming up, we're going to ensure that we've embedded DCF further into the school ethos. So how we use Apple in primary school. So through the nursery to year 1, really, we concentrate on using sort of developing hand-eye coordination, using different apps to help develop children's confidence in using different apps. We've also, as I said, we're going to be developing using the pencils and incorporating those into lessons and activities as well. And as I mentioned, it's mainly to do with developing confidence, and obviously children, they use technology all the time at home and with their families. So this is just a continuation, really, and in trying to incorporate learning into that as well. So this short video is a little girl drawing something on the iPad. All of these videos were taken during the last 3 weeks. Because I try to get some present experiences and videos of what children are doing right now. So she's making a face there, I believe, on the iPad there. So then through to from year 2 really to year 6, we use the Macs to develop our typing skills. We use iPads then for creating content and editing, iMovie and clips, and we use the Macs then for research presentations. And as you can see in those pictures there, you can see that the children in my class, they've used the Macs then to present their work. So they've got the questions on the screen, and then they're right on the table using the iPads then to take the pictures and then to upload that to Google Classroom. Then, so they seamlessly using all of the technology there together to get to the end goal, really. Because in the last 3 weeks, since lockdown started, we've tried to go paperless. So from year 1 onwards, we've just used technology for everything, really. So there has been some challenges along the way, as you could imagine, going completely paperless. But I think that the buy-in from the teachers and the pupils has been tremendous. I'll talk a little bit more about that during the blended learning aspect a little bit later on. So this is how we use. This is one of the ways we use Apple hardware in school to enhance learning experiences. So in class on this video here, so I'm using the iPad there to AirPlay my act as a visualizer, I guess. So I'm explaining the question to the pupils on the table, and then that's transmitted then to the screen. So that's allowing the children then to address any misconceptions and in real time then, really. And it allows them to, if anyone's unsure of anything, they can ask questions then directly, and it allows them to collaborate and work together then in talking about each of the problems. Similarly, then you can use that to read a book or highlight information, and then the children then they can they feel, if you don't have enough copies of the book, you can then feel everyone's together then when they are using the examples. So before I completed this presentation, I wanted to go to the other teachers in the school, because using these Apple products is beneficial for everyone. So it's not just about how I experience them. I think the way things are working really well is the least experienced teacher is getting the most out of the hardware. It's easy enough for experienced teachers or individuals to to get the most out of hardware and software. But it's a sign of good products is when the least experienced is able to use them effectively. So these are some of the testimonies, I guess you could say, that come from the teachers over the past few weeks. And I think that's increased during the time of lockdown, really, and since we've come back to school. So, these are some of the comments here. And I think the ability for AirDrop and AirPlay, they're the two of the best, I think, features, which allow the children and teachers to work together. There you go, like collaborating for movies, editing, intuitive, creativity. These are the things that obviously Matt mentioned in his in the presentation previously, and I feel that in the real world, those things do genuinely work all the time. And at the top, what I said simply works. Everyone knows the quality. Everything just works all the time. We never have any issues with any hardware. Everything just works all the time, and it's a simple thing to say, but once you've got the infrastructure there, you are able then to build on the usability and the ability to develop the confidence in using the products. Okay, so moving forward, really, we are looking to develop a consistent approach to staff training. So I'm looking to develop Apple certified teachers within the school. We are also going to be investing in new hardware, which is very, very important, really. It is increasingly important to make sure for that infrastructure, to make sure everything works properly. And that sort of leads into then the infrastructure support there from the Welsh Government. As the school grew, it became more and more apparent that the Wi-Fi sort of system needed to be upgraded. So that's imminent support there from the Welsh Government, which is very, very important for a school of our size. We're also looking to provide opportunities for children to use the hardware effectively. So making sure that everything we use, everything has a purpose. So it's not just for the sake of it. There has to be a purpose, and that's something which I've tried to do personally in my own teaching approach throughout the last sort of 3 or 4 years, in making sure everything has a purpose in not just regards to technology and everything you do. And then further down the line, then we're looking to maybe innovate with using a sort of VR or AR. Obviously, these new technologies are very exciting, but this can only be achieved then if we support and develop the fundamentals. So looking at sort of working towards all the simple basic skills, and then developing through those then to these new technologies. So our blended learning approach, sort of during and after lockdown, I'm sure many schools in the area or all over the UK were unsure of how to do their approach. So we've been using Seesaw in school as our sort of digital platform for the past 3 years, I would say. And in that time, then that's allowed the teachers and pupils, and in the community as well, parents, to become confident in using it. It is a very easy to use, simple, intuitive system. But we were given the opportunity to use it, the premium features, for free during lockdown, and I decided then for our strategy to just continue with using Seesaw over the course of lockdown, just for consistency purposes and for confidence for teachers in using the platform. Sadly, well, I guess it's an opportunity, I suppose. We were able then to look at the transition, and just due to sort of cost, really, of using Seesaw, it became quite expensive to use if we continued to use it after lockdown. We decided then to transition, as many schools have, into using Google Classroom. So we found that the usability of Google Classroom and Seesaw worked. They are very, very similar in their approach, and it allowed us then to develop confidence, really. So during the 3 weeks of the catch-up sessions, as we are the last 3 weeks of term, we decided to use Seesaw, continue to use Seesaw at home, but then through using our Apple products then in school, we would then transition to using Google Classroom in preparation for September. So all of our products, all of our activities have been on Apple products in school, and then developing their confidence in using Google Classroom. So so things like the activities, so things like collaborating, using Google Sheets, all of those activities were building up in preparation then for September. And, you know, going paperless, it was a big decision. We did obviously to do with sort of transmission rates of the virus as well. That was one of the reasons, of course. But we also found that the engagement rates, how children got involved in using technology, they were very, very excited, very engaged, almost automatically engaged, really. And we found that, well, it was incredible, really. So, so what we did as well, I think I mentioned that children were using Google Classroom in school. And then they were also, so for consistency, we're using the same activities on Seesaw as on Google Classroom as well. So it sort of allowed for an element of consistency going forward. So on to the next one. So where are we going to go from here, really? Our blended learning approach, we're going to, well, I'm going to use some time in the holidays to research further strategies. The keynote this morning, that was really insightful as well. We're going to continue to develop confidence in using digital platforms. We're transitioning from Seesaw, and we're using this time now to build confidence, teacher confidence mainly as well, in using the different aspects of that. Train staff, so we're providing extra training sessions and materials for teacher development in using the hardware and software. And then we're going to increase the sort of quality resources. We've purchased a number of new iPads with pencils. And as Kelly mentioned in the previous presentation, to use a variety of different hardware. So we have purchased Chromebooks as well to offer a flexibility and variety of skills in order to allow children then to make the decision based on the type of hardware or software they need to use. Okay, yeah, thanks for listening.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you, Rhys. Appreciate all that. You'll be glad to know that Twitter and the chat has blown up full of questions for you. So, no, it's really insightful, and I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people who are using Apple Education in their classrooms and out of their classrooms. Firstly, in the YouTube chat, I've got to give a mention to this afternoon's keynote speaker, Mr. John Tate. John, I'm hoping he's pulled over to type this in, but he's been following along in his car along the motorway. He's Bluetoothing the audio from the live YouTube stream through Apple CarPlay, so he doesn't miss any of this morning's presentations. So big welcome to John. We'll see you later on. First question then, Rhys, from Jonathan Simons, is how do you find using Google Classroom on the iPad?
Oh, it's seamless, to be honest. We use it. I've been using it now for the last 2-3 weeks in my class, and we sign in on Hub and then through to Google Classroom. We've downloaded the app onto the iPad and then just sign in directly. They only have to sign in once. Then they signed in for the day. We just make sure they sign out at the end of the day. The pictures. It's just seamless, really. It's really, really easy. I would recommend it to anyone. You know, using the Mac and the iPad together. It allows for such flexibility then in your approach that you're able to easily then it's just obviously training of the children themselves. Once they're up and running, then I teach Year 5 class, so they're quite tech savvy already. So once they're up and running, then the possibilities endless, really.
Yeah, it's just replicating, I suppose, what Kelly and I spoke about earlier, the flexibility and that digital competence, particularly in upper key stage 2 then, so they can choose their device and still carry out several tasks. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for the question, Jonathan. The next one has come in via Twitter, so you can get to us on @AspireToBe. Rhys, it's put you on the spot here. Your favourite app?
My favourite app, I would say it would be, I think Keynote, to be honest. I use Keynote all the time. It's tremendously flexible. You can do so much with it. I use Pages all the time. I know Word has come on a lot in the last few years, but I've been using Pages now and I use it all the time. I know they're quite simple, boring apps, but they just work all the time and it's just so flexible.
Awesome. Real advocate for the Apple Education, fair play. Another one then, perhaps wants to know a little bit more. You mentioned your tech team that I think consists of 3 members of staff. I think somebody's probably in a similar situation to yourself as sort of DCF lead across the school. So how does that work? Are you giving time to it, or how does it work, please?
So we wanted to take away any sort of basically sort of pressure on the admin team. They were getting emails from parents. How do I do this? How do I do this? Login details, all those sort of general sort of things that take time for admin teams to sort out. So we came up with the idea of creating, like, using Hub to make a dummy account. It's called the Team Assist account. And then we, me and two other teachers, then we man that email address then. And I sort of provide training then using Google Classroom and any issues that they may have that they're not sure of. So then that offers then that free time then for the admin team, and it allows us then to deal directly with parents and deal with. We basically man the team then, man the email address, taking turns on a rota, and then that allows us then to work directly then with parents, and it sort of cuts out the middleman, I guess you could say. So it saves time and effort.
Yeah, and is that covered then other staff across the whole school, the key stages then, or?
Yeah, so we've got like there's three teachers, and then obviously that we've got the Team Assist email on the website as well, so anyone can email us directly, and that covers everyone in the school then. Yeah.
Amazing, fab. Okay, question from myself now then. Just watching you, obviously busy in your development stages. So far, what would you say have been the biggest successes and likewise then the challenges you've had with integrating technology?
Yeah, I would say more than the hardware and actual technology itself is just the buy-in from the staff. I think that's been the biggest success. Really is, being a relatively large school. You've got to have the buy-in from everyone in order to be successful, especially when using technology, because there's such a massive disparity in skill levels and confidence. And I think everyone from leadership, teachers, support staff. I think in some sort of way we've been sort of forced into this really due to lockdown and things, but the confidence, the teamwork, that's really shone through, and I think the ability for everyone to work together in this is obviously incredibly challenging time for everyone. I think that's been our biggest success really, but also on the same hand as well, it's also been a challenge as well, because getting all of these people, all the different staff, everyone together to work on the same page, thinking about training sessions, thinking about upskilling people. It's been headache, but it's been the end product is a massive upskill in abilities and confidence. That's but I think as well is the ability for us to use Apple products is consistent. I think the consistent is the key here, and the quality and the ability of the things just to work all the time. So I think that's been a massive success, is the consistency from year 1 or even lower reception nursery going up to year 6, and then they're able to use the same products, and it's all and it just works all the time.
Excellent. Okay, and finally, then you mentioned last autumn. Then you were one of the successful applicants to come to our very first, the first in Europe actually, the Apple Learning Institute. So we were able, Aspire to Be, were able to put the event on in Margam, in Port Talbot.
Yeah.
Where I think there was 20 of you from across Wales and a bit further afield to come in and. Successfully, delighted to say, everybody completed that, and you've become the first Apple Learning leaders in Europe. And obviously that, from your presentation I've seen, has really had an impact back at Coity. Matt, I'm going to bring you back in now, and if Matt can give us a bit of an overview of exactly what is the Apple Learning Institute, please, Matt. You're on mute, Matt, sorry.
There I am, first time of the day. No, that's great. Yeah, I've got just a couple of slides to share here, because as Reese mentioned, Reese came onto our first Apple Learning Institute that we ran. I think it was back in November now, actually. It seems a long time ago now, doesn't it? But essentially, the Apple Learning Institute is a new formal course, professional development, and accreditation as well, which we've run exclusively as Ryan mentioned early on, as the only Apple professional learning provider that we were able to put this on. So essentially the ALI, as we call it, very much focuses on something that Reese mentioned, which is about if you've got technology that you're using in school, how do you know that it's being used effectively? Well, often you can look at the staff who are perhaps least confident in their use of technology, and if they're able to apply it successfully, you know that you are on the right tracks. And that's very much about how we look at technology in terms of our own perspective, but very much appreciating the use of technology from the perspective of others, and that it may not always be aligned to perhaps what we're thinking about. So a lot of the Learning Institute itself is trying to cover these main objectives, which I won't read through altogether, but it's preparing individuals to lead the way in which they're using Apple technologies back in not just the classroom as an individual, but actually as a leader. Okay, so we cover off all of these different objectives, and a key part of that is to develop a digital action plan, a DAP as we call it, which really is to make sure that there is a clear line of progress that you can develop over a period that will help to embed the successful use of technology. And as an individual, what does it mean? Well, you will become an Apple Learning leader, and we are looking at running a number of these Apple Learning Institute again. They were originally going to take place this year, but obviously that's not going to happen now. It's the kind of a series of sessions. It's run over 3 days, and they're very difficult to run virtually. We all know that remote learning, blended learning, however you reference it, is fantastic, but sometimes you need to stand in front of people and you need to be able to talk to the person face to face about how you can develop some of these elements. So the Apple Learning Leader is an official accreditation from Apple, and obviously Reese is one of those as well. And really it's talking about facilitating change. And we mentioned this earlier when we discussed with Derek, and Derek highlighted it fantastically in his keynote, that change is much more than just looking at the products and the technology that you're using. It's very much focused on the people and the culture in which you're able to foster within an environment to make sure it's successful. And Aspire to Be, our particular model, is we focus on these 3 areas: people, process, and product. The people being the culture, being the digital skills. The processes are literally how your school operates, how it runs. And then, of course, the products, looking at the hardware, the software, and the infrastructure. And in order to gain that success, you have to have an effective blend of all 3 in order to get real long-term sustainability with your approach. Because if you start missing any of these, you end up with slight issues. And just as an example, if you've got the people, so you have the culture and you've got the skills, and you have the processes in place, but you don't necessarily have the products, so that's the hardware and the software and the infrastructure, you will end up with frustration across the school, with the students, with the staff, and ultimately with the parents. Conversely, if you have the people, so you've got that culture and digital skills, and you've got the product, but you don't have the right processes in place, you haven't thought about the strategy potentially, then what you will end up with is inconsistency across the school, and you end up with pockets of excellence, which is okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But again, referring back to Reese's point, you've got to make sure that approach is embedded right across the staff body in order to have that measured and long-term success. And then also you've got, if you've got the processes in place and you have the products, and for whatever reason, your culture or the digital skills of your staff aren't quite there, then you can lead to it being disengaged across the school. And you could argue that those different terms could be interchanged, but essentially that's the approach of the Institute, is to look at, as a leader within a school, how can you effectively blend all of those 3 to make sure you have long-lasting success. And just remember that there's some key things that we need to think about within this, is that with some of the hardware and technology that we're able to implement, that every learner has the opportunity to be a creator, and teachers design the conditions for those creators to flourish. So they don't necessarily direct them all of the time, but they can facilitate them most certainly. And that all feeds into the environment, making sure that we have all the right tools and technologies in order to properly make it all function and ultimately create a fantastic learning environment for everyone. So that's just a brief insight into the Apple Learning Institute. We're going to be looking to run a number of those over the next, I'll say 12 months, because who knows when they'll actually start. Fingers crossed it'll be sooner rather than later. We'll be running those in conjunction with one of our partners, They are an Apple authorized education supplier, I think is the correct term. It's just changed recently, JTRS. And they really take care of all of the other side of things, making sure that your Apple solution can be deployed successfully. So we're really looking forward to those, and just keep an eye on the Aspire to Be Twitter feed, and we'll post all details on that when we know what days they're actually taking place.
Matt, thank you. I've got a quick question for you both, and it's something that I know we do really dive into at the Institute events, and it's coming from Jonathan Simons again. It's an excellent question. It really, and it's perfect really that you're both in front of me from two different angles on this. So Matt, I can ask you first. Do you think that this has got to be something from the top down? Is it a top down? Has it got to come from leadership?
Such an interesting question. I'd have to say that you don't necessarily have to have that top level of leadership driving the change, but they most certainly have to be on board, and they most certainly have to be advocates for those who can drive the change. So, if we've got people like Reese or Kelly or whatever technology we're looking at, you do need to have that buy-in from the top levels of leadership, because ultimately they will make a lot of the decisions that take place across the school. So if you can get that, to begin with, you're really onto a winner. And the best way I can suggest of doing that is that you provide the proof of concept. So rather than just going and saying, I know we need to do this, how can we do it? And particularly, can we have funding? It's providing that proof of concept to show actually how that can properly benefit teaching and learning. And if the argument is there for outstanding teacher learning outcomes, well, you don't really have to say much more.
Reese, thoughts on it?
Yeah, of course. You've got to have the buy-in from the top level in order to facilitate any change, really. I think once you've got that buy-in, then from there you can then run with it. Then to like the courses that I've taken part with you. And I think then once you've got that buy-in, then you can then disseminate the information or pass it on to other people then in the school hierarchy.
Excellent. Thank you both. And again, thank you, Jonathan, for that question. Please feel free to continue to interact with us via social media and the chat, and we'll pose those questions to our speakers. Reese, thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations again on your new responsibility at Kitey, and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Thanks very much. Matt,
likewise. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, now then, last but certainly not least, we're going to focus on Google for Education. And it's a great privilege to welcome the National Accounts Manager now then, Kiri Gooch. Kiri, welcome.
Hi, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for giving up some of your time to join us this morning. No worries. Really appreciate it. Well aware of how busy you've been recently. So again, you're another of our guests today with a really important job within the UK's edtech sector. So I'll hand over to you now then to explain more about your role and Google in general, please.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, so thanks for the introduction. My name's Kiri, and as it says on the screen, I am the National Accounts Manager for the Google for Education team. And what that means is I work with the national accounts, which is Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and we do actually count London in that as well. So hi to all of the Welsh educators that are joining in today specifically. But I really work on kind of programs to support teachers in those countries alongside national governments to roll out G Suite and Chromebooks. And I've been asked to come and just give you a little bit of a kind of 5 minutes on what Google for Education is. And so I will just jump straight in. So I think just to kind of take a step back and think about the kind of world that we're living in today, is very different to even what 6 months ago looked like, let alone sort of 2 years. And if you think about what your school could look like when we're back to some sort of normality, having technology at the core of that is really important, and important for a number of reasons, not just because technology can help to support learners when they're at home, but also when they're in school. So if you think about your school right now and think about what your ideal of your school might look like if you put technology in the center of that, if you think about where students could kind of do their best and get personalized tools that work for them, If you think about where teachers can be more connected more meaningfully with students, and if you think about where IT's jobs are a little bit more optimized and it's a much easier process for them to deploy technology and to make sure that it's working all of the time. This is kind of what we would kind of define as the basics, right, of a school environment, and we know that technology can really support that. And so when we look at what Google for Education is, and we talk about, we say this term Google for Education quite a lot, but what does that actually mean? Well, in essence, it's these three key things. So we have a productivity suite, which is called G Suite. We have devices, which are Chromebooks, and we have Google Classroom that really ties everything together. And I know that we're probably going to dive a little bit deeper into the practical side of what these tools look like. But this is really just an overview of what we mean by Google for Education. Not to mention that as Google, we do have many other programs such as Applied Digital Skills that are Google kind of created content that you can go out and pick up and use, which kind of also sits within this umbrella, but really I'm going to be talking about these three things. And what we've seen, and particularly over the past few months, we've seen a huge acceleration in the use of these tools across the world. So we have 140 million students using G Suite for Education, well, students and educators. We have 100 million of those using Google Classroom, and we have 40 million students using Chromebooks, although that stat was actually from January. So as you can imagine, that's probably gone up. We just don't have any sort of official figures on that released right now. And we see Chromebooks as the #1 selling device in countries where they're very much on a kind of one-to-one model. So in the US, in Canada, in the Netherlands, in Sweden, in New Zealand. And if we think back to what I talked about at the beginning about what does your school look like, really the reason for this is because these tools are so easy to deploy. And IT admins have a really easy job when it comes to managing Chromebooks. And that's because it's all managed in one central place, along with your G Suite environment. And the feedback that we get from schools and all of these millions of people that are using these tools is that they're really easy to use. They're flexible and scalable. So you might be one primary school with up 200 students, or you could be a big multi-academy trust with thousands and thousands of students and teachers. The flexibility and the scalability of these tools make them really easy to adopt. They're also built for collaboration, and because you're working in the cloud live in real time, you can work live, doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Wales and someone else could be in Scotland or New Zealand, and you could be working on a collaborative document together. And everything is built with security in mind, and that is absolutely true through all of the products that you use as part of G Suite for Education. And if you just look at the screen right now, you'll see all of the different icons for all of the different tools that you get as part of G Suite for Education. And you might recognize some of them, Google Meet, for example, Jamboard, some of the ones that you may not have ventured into as much yet, but maybe something that you might be thinking about during this time. So with that, I'm going to pass over back to Ryan. I think he's going to come in.
Yeah, thank you, Kiri. That was excellent. Those statistics are just mind-boggling, how the impact on G Suite have had. And like you say, from January, so no doubt that has doubled, tripled, quadrupled, no doubt.
Something like that, yeah.
It's been a very unique year, to say the least. So you've posed this question to me in the past, so it's my turn to ask it to you now. What would you say is your favorite app? If you were still in the classroom now, perhaps, what would be the one that you would really be top of the list for you to use?
Yeah, good question. I think so. When I was teaching, Google Classroom was still a fairly kind of new product in a way. I started using it kind of the day that it was launched, right? Because I was so excited for this product to like tie everything together that I was doing. And I think Google Classroom really for a teacher is that kind of one-stop shop for everything that you need, and you can do everything you need to as a teacher within that. But I think when you then think about actually from a teaching and learning perspective, whilst Classroom is that sort of vehicle to allow you to do all the things that you want to do, I think Google Forms lends itself really nicely to a multitude of different things you might want to do with students. So you might want to check on health and well-being, for example. You might want to question check learning. You might want to check for learning, do assessment for learning. You might want to get your trip forms back from parents without them getting missing in bags or lost on the way. And so I think Google Forms is a really versatile tool that actually we see a lot of schools pick up and run with straight away before they kind of dive into any of the other tools. And so with that, yeah, probably Google Forms is a kind of the versatility, Google Classroom to bring it all together. And one thing I always tell people is if you haven't looked at Jamboard yet, definitely go and take a look. We're actually going to be doing some integration with Google Meet and Jamboard. And basically it's an online collaborative whiteboarding tool, which just works a dream if you're, even if you're working remotely or working in class. It's a really great tool to kind of pick up. And that's one that I think people shy away from diving into. So I would definitely recommend going to look at Jamboard as well. Excellent.
Kiri, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really insightful, and I'm sure our audience can really relate to what you've said. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Okay, that's really nicely teed me up again for our third and final showcase presentation, which comes from Scott Morgan. Scott is the digital lead at Bridgend College. Scott, good morning.
Morning. Hi, how are we doing?
Very good, thank you. Nice, thank you for joining us. Now, I'm not going to steal your thunder and tell everyone about the recent success that the college has had, but I will offer our congratulations to you because you've recently had some success, I believe.
I have, yes. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. The Excellence in Staff Training and Engagement Award, I believe, at a recent virtual award ceremony. Congratulations on that. Excellent news.
Cheers. Thank you.
So it's great to see that you and the team around you getting rewarded for all the hard work, which I'm sure you're going to tell us all about shortly. So without further ado, I'll hand you over.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, it was a bit of a shame that the award ceremony wasn't, an actual physical ceremony that we could all go and have a nice meal out of. But there we go. Yeah, sit in my living room and watch it anyway. Anyway, so thanks for the introduction. So I'm Scott. I'm digital lead at Bridgend College, and my role there is to oversee our use of technology in teaching and learning. So I'll just give a brief overview of the college's digital strategy, how we've sort of approached digital provision, how we're sort of switched to remote learning under the current circumstances, and then looking forward to how we're sort of preparing for September. So it's a bit of a background for the college. We're a further education college, so general FE college in South Wales. We employ around 700 staff and support about 6,000 students on full and part-time courses. We've got 4 campuses at Bridgend, Pencoed, Queens Road, and up in Maesteg. We were FE College of the Year in 2019 at the Times Educational Supplement FE Awards, and we have recently been recognised as a Google Reference College. That's a kind of big milestone achievement for us. So we've been using G Suite since 2018. And when we were sort of introducing it, we were looking for something that really kick-started a bit of a sea change in the way teaching and learning is done at the college. And not only has G Suite achieved that extremely quickly, but it's also led to a massive development in agile working practices across the organisation, and that's from business support right through to curriculum. We've got over 175 staff now certified at Google Educator Level 1. Around 30 at level 2. We've got 5 in-house certified trainers and 1 certified innovator. And all of those programs are sort of fully funded in our CPD program for any staff who kind of want to train and move up to the next level. Google Classroom is our VLE. It's the only available VLE, and it's used across all curriculum areas. So our digital strategy is based mainly on the Welsh Government's Digital 2030 framework, and this document sets out expectations and goals for the post-16 education sector, I suppose, to drive towards by 2030. I won't go into much of the finer details about that strategy, but I'm more than happy to share it with whoever's interested, and that Welsh Government document is also available online to download. Instead of the strategy, I want to talk about what I believe are sort of the 4 key factors that are critical for any sort of digital transformation success. The first one for us is people first. And at Bridgend College, that concept really is a key component of our organisation, and it extends across the college from leaders all the way through staff to students. And I believe without that, there's just no point investing in technology. You have to put the people, and that's the training, the investment in time, before you put the product or the tech in. So to kickstart our digital transformation, we work closely with Aspire2B, and we worked with them to sort of co-construct a 2-year training plan for us. And really, I personally feel that we've only been successful this far because of the sustained investment in the time, the training, and the infrastructure, and really ensure, like we were talking about earlier, like Matt said, that the people, the product, and the process really align seamlessly. And Aspire2B embodied these concepts and have really helped us to push to achieve our vision. But even with both of those points in mind, and I think whatever approach we may have taken to the cultural transformation and the staff training, no digital transformation will be possible without the commitment to the core IT infrastructure. And we've invested annually in Wi-Fi, connectivity, cloud storage provision, and we've got an excellent on-site IT support team, and they've certainly been critical in terms of getting us to where we are already. And kind of coming back to the comments that were talked about earlier, I think it is essential that the people first approach extends across the organization, and that's all the way from leadership and down. So we work consistently with senior leaders, and I think Matt said that it doesn't necessarily have to be leadership that drives it, but they certainly need to be on board, and that is really important. And they need to ensure that the digital strategy is coherent and implemented and respected. And I think that final point is important. It needs to be a working document that's continually updated, evolves with time and requirements. It's not just designed to be written once and sort of sit in a drive and gather dust. So I do think, yeah, that it needs to be kind of, if not driven wholly from the top, you need to have that leadership buy-in. So over the next few slides, I'm just going to kind of give an overview of our current digital provision pre-lockdown, and then sort of share some ways that we've been using G Suite to sort of help students and staff switch to remote learning in the current circumstance. And then I'll finish up by kind of looking forward to September and take you through some of our thought processes for sort of training and upskilling under the new modes of curriculum delivery. So, as part of the Welsh Government Digital 2030 programme, which I mentioned earlier, we received some funding to create a digital innovation space, which we've called DEN 01. And this launched in January of this year. I was going to do a bit of an overview, but I thought I'd just play our launch video instead. So hopefully the sound comes through. I did present the audio, so let's just try this.
Technology is changing the world and will have an impact on you. How do you keep up? Well, DEN 01 is a new digital movement with the resources, expertise, and training you will need to get ahead and reach your full potential. We will enhance and support the curriculum with digital projects in our inclusive space, open to everyone. We believe that some experiences are extraordinary and don't need many words at all. So if you really want to find out what we do, come and see for yourself. If you have an idea, let's make it happen. Switch on in DEN 01.
So obviously that was filmed before the pandemic. And I guess the take-home message from that is that DEN 01 is a physical space on campus. It functions as a drop-in service, which is resourced by my team of learning technologists. So my team, there's 5 of them. They're lecturing staff, and they've each got 1 day remission time. So they're available kind of 1 day each across the week. They're also Google certified trainers, and they support the delivery of the Google training across the college, whether it's face-to-face or remote virtual at the moment. We also have a team of student digital champions, and those people you saw in the video. So these are just students who are generally interested in tech. We run a weekly tech club every Thursday. That might have to be virtual in September, but we're hoping to kind of get back in the space as soon as we can. And the tech club really is just a chance for any students to get in and play with the kit. We're really lucky to have been able to invest in such a space, and the students love it. It's a great place for workshops to happen, and we've facilitated lots of kind of course-specific workshops out of the space as well. And on that, it's a really good space for staff training. So if there's a member of staff who for example, wants to use virtual reality in their classroom, or they want to get those robots that you saw in the video into their class for some reason, we're able to help with that. We're able to train them if they want to use it themselves, or accompany their class kind of in person if they feel they need a little bit more support. And this model has worked really well. So it was only open for 2 months just before we locked down. And in that time, we had 350 unique visitors, and we delivered over 50 workshop sessions. And we are an open space as well. So we offer wider programs to schools, community, businesses. So if there's anybody who's watching who kind of wants to drop in, come and see what we do, get their hands on some of the kit or some of the training, feel free to drop me a line. I'm always happy to discuss and kind of figure out how we can help. So the next sort of section, I just want to talk about how we flipped sort of into remote delivery, talk about what we've done so far towards the end of this term, and then also talk about looking forward to September and how that sort of will hopefully work. I'll do a bit of highlighting, and I'll start with Classroom. So I just want to highlight one of the ways we've used it in one of our departments. And our resident Google trainer and innovator, Pete Dunford, has put together a classroom for our HE exams. So basically, this is a way of running simultaneous assessments, with each exam paper being virtually assigned to the relevant people and for the correct amount of time. So if somebody's got extra time for whatever reason, then it's all sort of handled that they only get access for the correct amount of time for them. It's run at the moment, or just before, while the exams were going on in June, it's run from 11 tutors across 52 learners on 4 courses, and self-marking forms are used in there to import grades into Classroom, and then the tutors are kind of on hand for any technical support through Google Meet. And then in terms of sort of auditing and checking everything, the version history in Docs just make sure that only the correct people access it, everything's recorded and everything's done at the right time. So that's a really nice example, I think, of how we've sort of used Google Classroom in a little bit of a different way. The next thing I just want to highlight, you might not have seen, and if you use Google Docs, I think this is amazing. It's quite new, I think, and it's called Mote. So basically, Mote is a way of leaving voice comments on docs, sheets, slides, and in Classroom. And it records your voice, and you can just input it as easy as you can see in this GIF. And it also transcribes the comment as well. So that's really useful for just kind of giving quick feedback, and it's especially useful for sort of visually impaired learners as well. So there's a big sort of bit of work going on around accessibility and how that looks in September. So I think this is quite a nice example of that. In terms of Docs more generally, we use it across the entire organization. And I actually checked in our admin console just before this. And since the 1st of March, we've actually had 50,000 new Google Docs created inside our domain, which I think is quite incredible. All internal policies use Google Docs, and we use collaborative features all the time in all meetings that I go to and all meetings across the organization. So it probably goes without saying, I'm kind of referencing what Kiwi said, that our Google Meet usage, I quite like this graph, gone through the roof since switching to remote working and learning. This is the cumulative total number of unique Google Meet calls created since the 1st of January this year. So this is an increase of almost 5,000%. And Google have been great in terms of rolling out new features. They've really updated Google Meet since March quite considerably, and we're promised some more developments in that area by September. So we've received great feedback from lecturers in terms of how easy it is to use and interact with learners, and it's used across the organization for all meetings at the moment. We also use Google Chat a lot. We sort of create chat rooms for students to interact with lecturers and sort of keep them engaged and keep in touch. So finally, and kind of leading on to what I want to talk about for September, I just want to discuss our approach to devices over the last couple of months. And in the run-up to the sort of switch to remote working, in the run-up to lockdown, we worked really hard to figure out which learners and which staff members were in need of any loan devices and prioritise those based on needs. So since then, we've loaned over 200 Chromebooks out to students and staff. And we're just continually ensuring that our learners have the technology that they need at home to access learning. And I think this sort of stage of our switch to remote learning and remote delivery was critical. And it's certainly something that we've thought a lot about for September, making a strong case for one-to-one devices and sort of one-to-one technology for students at home. So moving on then, in terms of preparing for September, I just want to give an overview, and this is not sort of set in stone yet. A lot of this is kind of changing on the fly, but I just want to give an overview of the digital support plans we've put in place in preparation for coming back in September. So building on the sort of support offered in the final stages of this academic year, we've kind of tried to outline a bit of a comprehensive training and support package for staff in G Suite, and that revolves around 3 strands of support. So the first one, the main gateway for all digital support for our staff from September will be Google Classroom. So we've created a classroom. We've added all staff to it. So that's 750 odd staff in there. That's business support, teaching and learning. And in there, we've put sort of collections of resources, how-to videos. Staff can use that classroom to ask questions of each other, to get support, and so on. And we decided to use Classroom after quite a lot of sort of to and froing among the various different Google products and Google apps for this, mainly because of the notifications. So we originally thought, well, we'll just stick it on the portal, or we'll make a Google site or something like that. But there's no reason for people to go back and check that. So what we've done kind of in tandem with this is a weekly update, really, just to sort of keep in touch with staff of this is new, or have you checked this out? Check out this add-on. And we've got a bit of a schedule across the first term for posts to go out, so that people just keep looking at it and keep kind of engaging with it. Behind that, kind of in the second strand of support, we do have a Google site. And inside the Google site, we've put loads of resources, hints, tips, training materials, loads of sort of things around there. And all staff are also able to access the Aspire to Be's learning platform as well, which was mentioned earlier. So that online training we found to be excellent. And we've all staff have kind of got access to that and enjoyed going through it. So the third sort of strand, kind of backing that up, we also have a sort of one-to-one bespoke digital support service, and that'll run on a daily basis from September with my team, where staff can access support, ask questions, get ideas, all in a sort of safe environment. And the strategic focus of all of this support package that we're putting together is this concept of learning together. And we need to learn from each other. We're really keen to hear about what other schools are doing, what other colleges are doing, what universities are doing, what businesses are doing. We're always open to conversations, collaborations. We'll share, and we're looking for other people to share as well. So I think especially in this time, learning together is really important, and we're keen to do that. Just a final thing on that is this idea of learners having a suitable device to access learning from home. And this is something we're still hashing out exactly how this is going to work. We're not sure how we're going to do this quite yet, but our goal is that no learner will be technologically disadvantaged in September, no matter whether they're learning from the college or from home. So that's Wi-Fi, devices, and so on. So there's a lot of work to be done around that over the next couple of weeks, but that's the kind of main focus and the goal. So the last thing, this is my sort of final slide. The last thing I want to say, and I want to just highlight, is something we're rolling out on a wide scale this year, and that's, as Kiri mentioned earlier, applied digital skills. So if you haven't seen this program yet, I highly recommend going to check it out. It's basically a training package put together by Google. It's entirely free, and it sort of takes learners on a bit of a self-directed journey through Google's tools, develops various core skills, and there's tutorials and exercises on there that range from sort of building a portfolio in Google Sites, creating artwork in Google Drawings, loads more. I think it's a really, really good platform, and I think you should definitely go and check it out. So all students will follow the Applied Digital Skills program this year. And we're also hoping to put some of our student digital champions through the new G Suite certification for students. So this is an internationally recognized certification that I think it would just be great for some of our students to have. And Applied Digital Skills has the sort of certification track to it as well. So learners can follow the tutorials which cover certification materials in a self-directed way. So there is a cost to this, but we'll fund that for our student digital champions. And I just think it would be a really nice thing for them to go away with, to leave college with. So that's just about everything from me. So I think all that's left to say really is thank you for listening. Our virtual door is always open, so please feel free to get in touch. Please feel free to sort of drop us a line. If you want, to find out anything more about what we do, I'm always happy to chat. So yeah, thank you very much.
Scott, thank you very much. That was excellent. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching who are sort of on their journey to Google Reference School or Google Reference College themselves, who will be knocking that door to find out more. Particularly, I love the sort of vision, if you like, going forward, that it's not only the staff that are having that CPD, it's the students that you look after, where you're providing them with their digital skill opportunities as well. Excellent. I remember when, as a company, Aspire to Be visited Bridgend College, probably nearly 2 years ago now, where you had your digital competence review and sort of the line in the sand moment, ready then to take your next steps on the journey. Now, seeing you today and where the college are at now, the statistics with staff CPD have all been through everything incredible. What has that meant to the organisation as a whole?
So I think my deputy principal always says something like, when we kind of have a goal to strive towards, everybody gets behind it. And I think that's what senior leadership really did. And we were going for that Google Reference College. Yeah. That's what we wanted. We wanted that. We wanted the badge. But with the badge comes all of the other stuff. That's the impact, actually, talking about badges, that those little enamel pins had in terms of people wanting those pins for the Google Certified Educator. So we got those printed. And just people, just talking in the car, how'd you get one of them? I want to do that. Yeah, set me up with the next training. So, and the amount of people email me even now, have you got any badges? Amazing. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll give you a badge. So I think that idea of something to get to, and I think that's what's really nice about the certifications, because you could just do training, till you're blue in the face. But I think people like that idea of a bit of recognition, and something, that, it could be for CV, but it's also just for, it's a good feeling, isn't it, when you pass that exam and you get the certificate. And I think, it was a great feeling for us all, really, when we got the reference college status as well. So I think what it sort of did, and what that kind of focus did, was really push everybody to achieve, really.
Yeah, certainly the Google certification, even level 1, I remember vividly when I had that notification to say I'd passed it many years ago now, early in my ed tech journey. And you still see it when we're out training, when you hear people have done it through Aspire Ed, our online learning platform, emails coming through, and the relief, because I suppose as adults we're not used to those exam situations, and it's a real sense of achievement, even though you know how to use the apps and you're competent. It's still that 3-hour sort of ticker in the top corner. It is a good sense of relief. So to get the number of people through that is fantastic for the college. Couple of questions have come in during your presentation. Firstly, I'm just going to clarify that we're live at the moment, obviously via YouTube. As soon as this morning's presentation does finalize, just after midday, this video will become a recorded YouTube video that will sit there on our channel via various ways you can get to it. So you'll be able to watch back at any point. So I know a lot of teachers are querying, they might be back in school or colleges today who can't, watch the whole thing at once. It'll be on demand for whenever you like. The first question then has come in from Gareth Parker. He noticed your video, Scott, the Den 01, which again is a fantastic, innovative location, which I've had the privilege to visit. It was full of emerging tech. What's your personal favorite gadget?
Probably a Raspberry Pi, to be honest. So I love a Raspberry Pi. For those that are watching who don't know what a Raspberry Pi is, it's basically a credit card sized computer, and you can the possibilities with it, I suppose, are endless. You can make whatever you want out of it. We've got Raspberry Pi projects that stem from little selfie booths to kind of a robotic thing you can talk to, voice interface, all the way to kind of a robot dog, which is actually at home with me at the moment. It's my kind of pet. So I think just because of its versatility, I love them. I think they're brilliant. You can sort of plug things into them, program them, and it's not particularly difficult. Their resources are phenomenal, Raspberry Pi Foundation resources. So, if they're only about, I think you could probably get a cheapest one for about 20 quid with all of the peripherals added on. So you can get a fully functioning computer for 20 quid. And yeah, I think they're fab.
Yeah, you're going to get inundated with, how do you do that? How do No, great. So how does it work then? This is a question coming from me, this one. The students, do they have full access to the den, or is it something that's bookable? How does that work?
Yeah, so the way we've run it so far, and we're obviously, sort of changing this as we go, is that my team of learning technologists, there's 5 of them, they've got a day remission each. And for the most part, they spend that day in the den. So it's kind of open whenever college is open. And then people do just wander in, staff, students drop in. And it's kind of a central location in terms of where it physically is located, is where GCSE maths and English classes are. So that's all students go through those doors really, and they see it. Plus it's quite an interesting, nice kind of cool space. And then on top of that, we book workshops in with staff. So if somebody says, I kind of want to use virtual reality, but I don't really know what it does, then, they'll come to us first, maybe bring some students as well. And then we'll sort of take them through it there. And then if they want to go back and use it in their class, then they can. So yeah, it's a bit of both really. Yeah.
Great. The processes seem right, that sort of team teaching approach initially to then give the other staff the confidence to go and use it themselves. Excellent. Next question then, I believe it's Rian Owens from Haverford High, I believe. Morning, Rian. So does Bridgend College use Google Classroom for any externally verified exams, or is it just internally? Now, I know you mentioned this, Pete has been busy, but if you could give a bit of clarity, please, Scott. Yeah, that is a good question. I don't think we do, but I don't have a kind of unilateral view of that, so I'm not entirely sure. I should imagine it is only internally verified. But I know we have done certain things where we've kind of given external access to external verifiers or whoever to Google Classrooms, so that they can kind of see all the materials rather than us having to download them and send them in zip files or whatever, So everything is kind of self-contained within Google Classroom. In terms of exams, I'll have to check. I can come back on that. Feel free to drop me an email if you want, Rian. Yeah, I was going to say, or Pete, if you're watching, if you send us a tweet, we'll retweet it. And I know Rian will pick that up on Twitter as well, and we can get you linked up to support each other. Okay, I asked Kiri a similar question, Scott. This is coming from me. Your last few months have been very challenging, I suppose, in your role as digital lead. What one app, now Kiri went for Forms and Classroom, what one app can you say has been a real game changer to support with the distance or remote learning?
I think I'd have to go with Classroom. I think it's a phenomenal kind of bit of kit, really. For the staff Classroom, that's worked really well. We've also just reformed our sort of staff review process. So that's all now done through Classroom as well. So the line manager is a teacher in the classroom, and their direct report to students in the classrooms. They get assigned their kind of personal development plan. They complete it, they re-upload it. So yeah, Classroom for me, I think, is, without that, we wouldn't be anywhere near able to do what we've done. And so yeah, Classroom I think is the one to look at. Yeah, I think myself, even though I've been out of the classroom now 2.5 years on a permanent basis, it's I never really had the full benefit of Classroom because it wasn't then what it is now. So I think I probably tend to agree with you on that one, how impacting it can be.
Excellent. I believe that's all the questions that we've had come in. Scott, thank you again for your presentation. It's been really insightful for a lot of Googlers who have tuned in for this virtual conference today. And I'm sure, like you said, Scott, @Scott3142 on Twitter, if anybody's got any further questions, to get in touch. Scott, thank you very much.
Fab. Cheers, Ryan. Thank you.
Okay, see you soon. Okay, it's coming up to, we're a minute early, but we'll roll with that. That's not too bad, I think, considering we're all live here. We're now going to go to a session I've been really looking forward to. It's a chance for me to grill my colleagues, if you like. It's the Aspire to Be Clinic. Now, we put a Google form out on Monday, I believe, that's been collecting a lot of your questions coming in. And I've now got the great privilege of inviting in 3 of my colleagues who I'm going to pose those questions to. So first into the digital clinic, and of no relation, we often get asked this. There's 3 Evanses at Aspire to Be, and yeah, of no relation whatsoever. So the first one is Miss Beth Evans. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning, Ryan.
Looking very set up there in the background. I like it. I like it.
This is just everyday life for me, Ryan.
So Beth is here with a Google certified trainer hat on. Secondly, I'm going to introduce our very own Mr. Microsoft, if you like. He's a Microsoft master trainer and a Minecraft guru, Mr. Dean Garza. Welcome, Dean.
Hi, guys. Sorry, my setup's not as nice as Beth.
Where's your plant, Dean?
I think it died.
And last but not least is Mr. Matthew Smith, introducing his program director and also a fellow Apple professional learning specialist. Matt, again, no plant. I'm disappointed.
To be honest, yeah, we're lucky I've actually managed to get back on. I've had a technical problem, so I'm on a different device here.
Okay, you're here with us. Well, thank you all for joining us. A little bit of payback, perhaps, for all the times you've never put the kettle on, you 3. So we've had a couple of questions coming in. The first one is from a Helen Root. Welcome, Helen, from St. Patrick's School. Now, it's probably posed the question to all 3 of you. Matt, I'm going to come to you first with representing Apple, but I will turn to all 3 of you for this one, though. So it comes in. Helen is a user of all 3 platforms, Apple, Google, and Microsoft, and has been for several years. So in your role as ambassadors, where would you say is the best place for Helen to start on her digital certifications? So Matt, with Apple.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier on, definitely the Apple Teacher Center. So if you can get stuck into the Apple Teacher Center, it gives you a really good grounding in a lot of their core tools. You work through a series of kind of tutorials and assignments, and then gain your Apple Teacher badge, which you can then, as I said, share on social media and a variety of places. Following on from that, once you start to develop your practice, I would suggest having a look at most certainly the Apple Learning Leader that we will be running next year. But there are also a number of other initiatives that you can look at. So, for example, you can apply to become an Apple Distinguished Educator, which is a fantastic worldwide community where basically educators come together and just share innovative use of Apple technologies for teaching and learning. And then if you want to take that a step further, you can then go on to become an Apple Professional Learning Specialist, such as myself and Ryan.
Excellent. Dean, with regards to Microsoft.
Yeah, well, those of you that were around for Jennifer King's talk earlier, she talked about the Microsoft Educator Center. And there's a lot of great courses there, especially for those that are new to Microsoft, no matter what app you're using. So some schools, for example, might have access to Minecraft, not to the full Office 365 suite. And those that have access to all of them can learn something there at the basic to intermediate level. I am kind of partial to Aspire Ed as well, our site, but within the Microsoft Educator Center, you can also get the confidence to go for your MIE badge, which is the beginning, your MIE expert. And once you start using it and practice with your classroom, and you can show evidence of that. Or separately, you could be a certified Minecraft trainer if that's your forte. But there's so many ways. And then when you finally get a hold of that and mix it with your pedagogical principles, you can go for that Microsoft certified educator exam, which I think everyone in Aspire to Be has passed that exam as of now. It's kind of weird. We can all say certified educators for Google and Microsoft, so it's great. So I encourage all teachers to take a look.
Excellent. Thanks, Dean. And thirdly, Beth, with regards to Google, please.
Yeah, so there's a couple of places you can go. You could head to the Google Teacher Center. Just like Apple or Microsoft, there's a huge wealth of resources on there that you can have a look at. If you would like a slightly more guided approach to it, you can get some lessons from yours truly and my colleagues. And that's on our aspired.online learning platform. So that's a Google Level 1, Google Level 2 course. But ultimately as well, I would say, check out YouTube. There are so many great tutorials on YouTube that you can look at, and they're quick little snippets, things you need to learn. So yeah, Google Teacher Center, aspired.online, and YouTube. Excellent. Thanks, Beth. Matt, I'm going to come to you for this next question. It's coming from Dave Corcoran from Raydock School. Is an Apple Pencil worth investing in?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I'll answer this quickly because I know Beth will be jumping at the bit to answer this. What I've got here is I use Apple Pencil. I use an app called Notability, and basically I've now transferred and I literally have everything on this particular app on an iPad Pro. I think the benefit with an Apple Pencil, and if you haven't tried it, I really suggest that you should, is the actual feeling of writing with that pencil is very natural, and just from a very easy way of using it, which is how I use it, which is just as note-taking. This is probably my go-to device for just keeping notes, to-do lists, and all that kind of thing. However, I'll pass over to Beth because she takes this up another level.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So, yeah, the answer to that question for me would be absolutely. It is a lot of money. I understand that. And it depends kind of what you want to do with it. I'm a sketch noter, so I absolutely, I mean, I couldn't work without it. In terms of the apps I use with it, I'm a big user of Procreate. And with that, the Apple Pencil gives you endless possibilities for the types of artwork that you can create. So from me, it's a big yes.
Excellent. Good stuff. Beth, we're coming straight back to you for a Google question. I was paused this last week, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to respond.
Okay.
Reese Humphreys down in Haverfordwest High is an ICT manager dealing in the admin console, and really keen to get the new features of Google Meet, what they are, when are they coming, basically. So have you got an update with us, please, Beth?
I cannot wait for these features to become live. So basically, we've got improved moderator controls, which is great news for kind of teachers who are hosting Google Meets. They can control who enters, who's speaking, who's presenting, just giving you that kind of slightly higher level of control. You will be able to replace your backgrounds finally. So Dean, Matt, Ryan, if you don't have a lovely background like I do, that will no longer be a problem. So that's an option. Alternatively, you can blur it. So that's another feature. There will be breakout rooms, which is great. That would have worked really well for this kind of conference where you can host a main hangout together, and then you can send people off into the breakout rooms, but bring them back into the main chat as well. This one I'm super excited for. An integrated digital whiteboard. So for teachers, this could be a game changer. A raise your hand feature and quick polls and question and answer. So this cannot come soon enough for me.
Is there any ideas when this might get launched, Beth?
I'm not actually sure. Maybe you guys have picked up on it. Maybe I've missed that email. But it's soon is all I know. Okay,
no problems. Thank you very much. Dean, next question comes in from Jess at Caldecott.
Okay.
So this is in regards to the build-a-thons, and I'm sure you'll give us a bit of an overview, but are there any more planned?
Well, you know, as you guys might have known, the build-a-thon just ended. We had the first UK-wide build-a-thon competitions by region for Scotland, England, and Wales. We had about 600 families involved in that. Now, these are normally live sessions with teacher trainings followed up with clubs, and then we have the best of the best, so to speak, of the student teams come together for a live event. Couldn't happen, of course, with the lockdown, but it did reach a wider audience, funnily enough. So the competition has just ended. We're about to announce the UK-wide champion, and then after that, we're in discussions to see when we can get it back, because I've been inundated with emails about when it's going to come back and how soon, and when teacher trainings and all of those things happen. So the answer in short is it's in the works.
Excellent news. And congratulations. It's been a really successful project that's gone on over the last few months.
It's been great. Yeah, I loved it.
It's been great to see the innovation from pupils still coming through.
Amazing. Yeah, been really great.
Beth, back to you. Tamsin has got an e-safety concern. So it seems that Tamsin is a parent whose daughter is going into year 8. Should I allow her to have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, this is a really tricky one, because ultimately, if you're asking as kind of a parent, personally, then I would say absolutely you can monitor it. I think 13 is the age for YouTube. Correct me if I'm wrong, any of my colleagues. But basically, as a parent, you could set it up. You can then decide the kind of control, how visible her videos are and to whom she is sharing them to. If it's through school, then her school admin console will have control over YouTube anyway. So they might have decided as a school that they don't want children to access it, and that's fine. Or they might decide they can, in which case it's a massive lesson around digital citizenship, you know, the kind of information she should be sharing, that she shouldn't be sharing, and making sure that she fully understands, you know, where that video is going and who could potentially see it. So it's a massive conversation to have, but ultimately the legal age on YouTube 13. So just bear that in mind.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Dean, Simon from Hounslow has messaged in. So Simon's school is full of Windows desktops, and he's always made PowerPoint for his lessons, traditionally with PowerPoint. So been told Sway is a better alternative. Is it?
Well, I don't know about better. In terms of, they both have, for me as a teacher, when I was using Sway and PowerPoint, I used them for different purposes. So Sway, if you haven't used it before, because I'm assuming everybody knows about PowerPoint, and there's still actually so much more to PowerPoint than most people know, but starting with Sway, it really supports a narrative style of delivery. So if you are a confident teacher, you don't need many prompts, but you want a flow of images and text behind you, or to support what you're doing, Sway is perfect for that, because not only does it allow you to have images, multiple images, without having to change slides, you can also embed Microsoft Forms. You can also have videos that play on cue. And if you're just getting started, all you gotta do is type in a topic. It'll create one for you automatically. And on top of that, you can use even old Word documents, PDFs, some PowerPoints, and get started that way, because it'll transform them. And one last thing is the newest update in Microsoft Word has the transform button now. So if you have a Word document, you can instantly transform it into a Sway to see how it works. But if for better, you definitely, especially in the morning when you get in and you just realize you didn't have that presentation ready to go, Sway's perfect for that, because it only takes you about 5 minutes to get one up and going. It's great. So
Excellent.
That way, yeah, I think it's better.
Dean, you mentioned that it can work with sort of editing some PDFs here. So I'm just going to jump into the YouTube chat. Rob Howells has messaged in to say, what's the best tool to create editable PDFs for children to fill in? So obviously you've got Dean's solution perhaps with Sway. If I'm not obviously sure what devices you're using, Rob, for me, if you were on Chromebooks, I'd go to Squid Notes, which is excellent for editing and having that sort of canvas on top of a PDF. Matt, Beth, anything to add for that one?
Yeah, so I've seen it done in Google Slides, not necessarily editable PDFs, but where people have put the PDF as a background in Google Slides and then text boxes on top so that the students can fill it in. So that's another option. Also potentially Cami if you're using Chromebooks. So yeah, a couple of options.
If you're using iPads, again, I'll go back to the app I referenced earlier, actually, Notability. That imports PDFs really, really well, and you can customize them there as well. And there's one I used to use. I'm not sure if it's still available, but I actually used this as an interactive whiteboard. So that rather than something like Promethean or a smart notebook, it was called Metamoji Note, I believe. And it's an absolutely fantastic tool. At the time, it was free, but I'm not sure if it is now. But it's worth having a look at for sure.
Yeah, Rob has just again sent a message in. Do all of those options allow you to save the answers? Now, I believe so. I can't think of a reason why you couldn't export then your modified PDFs with those.
In Google and Microsoft, there's so many third-party apps that you can add to create editable PDFs. So it's worth taking a look, Rob, when you get a chance. Everyone's got a favorite, that's for sure.
Definitely. We've got a couple more coming in the chat, but I'm going to go back to one that was sent in a couple of days ago. Matt, this is for you. It was sent in by Harriet, who's a foundation phase teacher in sunny Rhyl in North Wales. Welcome, Harriet. Is there a way to record your screen on an iPad?
Oh, absolutely. I wish I could demonstrate it right now, actually. Move on to a different device. Yeah, so if you navigate to the control center, there's an option to record screen. Now, sometimes it may not be enabled. So if you go into the settings first, enable the record screen function, and then go back onto the home screen of your iPad, if you will, and swipe up to the control center. You'll see an option to record. Now, there's two ways you can record the iPad screen using that feature. You can either use it just to record purely what's taking place on the device, or you can use it to record what's taking place on the device whilst you're narrating over the top. So you can create some really lovely mini tutorials and some screencasts. That's particularly useful for if you're, let's talk about the current time, blended learning. What we need to be doing is making sure our parents are supported in how to support their children at home to access content. If you're using anything to do with iPad, the screen record function is absolutely superb for that. It's even available on iPhones as well, so you can totally just use it on there and create a little how-to guide and then post it onto whatever tool you're using, Classroom or Teams or Class Dojo, Seesaw, it doesn't matter. It's just exported as a video.
Thanks, Matt. Harriet, your question has teed me up nicely to plug one of my upcoming courses on our online learning platform, aspireed.online. It is in the development stage at the moment. After a recent accessibility webinar that we ran alongside JTRS, there's going to be an accessibility on iPad course coming very soon. So keep an eye on that one across our social media. Question coming in from Jonathan again, which is great. Keep them coming. Goes to all of you this. How do you overcome the challenge of wanting to be multi-platform certified? So obviously, as you can see, Jonathan, he wants to do his Microsoft certification, but if the school isn't using Teams, I think the dog's got an opinion on Microsoft. No problem. But Dean, do you want to pick up on that one first? I know, or does the dog want to pick up on it?
Yeah, my dog has something to say about that. Well, that's a good question because, when I was teaching, the first initiative that I was involved in was with Google. And this was about 5, 6, 7 years ago, about that time. Yeah. So, and then I was interested in using Microsoft apps just the same as this. I think it was Jonathan here that had the question. So the one thing is, a lot of times you have access to some of these tools if you just find the right places. So if you already have an Outlook account, for example, you'll have access automatically to like Sway and things of that nature that are free. Now getting Teams, that's a bit tricky. So you might actually have, a lot of schools don't even know that they have access to these things because they have single sign-on. So they actually have Office 365, but they might be using Google instead. So check on that. And if you do, for example, Outlook Exchange, kind of ask and inquire about Office 365 and see if you can get to those apps and kind of fiddle around and definitely take a look at our course on Aspire if you need help or get in touch with us.
Excellent. Thanks, Dean. Now to conclude, I don't believe there's any more questions in the YouTube chat at the moment. It's a question I've posed most guests this morning. So obviously we're not in the classroom full time at the moment, but we are all teachers in essence, really still. If you were still in the classroom, having to provide for this distance learning experience at the moment, what would be in your own, using your own technology, so Apple, Google, and Microsoft, what would be the #1 tool for you, do you think, over the last few months? And we'll go to you, Beth, first.
Oh, that's a biggie. Okay. Do I have to specify a specific tool within G Suite?
Just one app, please.
Oh, okay. I would have to say for me, it would be Google Slides because I have done a couple of webinars throughout this for Google for Edu, for Aspire to Be, about how you can make learning journals for your children using Google Slides. They can create so many different projects using just slides. You can link to different parts of your curriculum. You can guide your children if you've got kind of a pack of resources and you want them to go to different places. Anyone who knows me knows I am a massive Google Slides fan. So I would have to say, yeah, Google Slides.
Excellent. Dean?
Well, not to plug my upcoming webinar, I would say Teams, only because very similar to what Beth said, you can incorporate all of the apps that you want to use within Teams seamlessly without having to change windows and tabs all the time. So you can kind of pull in things from your drive and anything that you have pre-prepared or prepare it right there from scratch. So definitely.
Nice. And Matt, finally with Apple.
Yeah, a bit of thought on this one, but I've chosen a tool which is, it works fantastically well on Apple devices, which is Seesaw, but it is available on all devices and all platforms. Now, the benefit with Seesaw, if you haven't looked at it, it's particularly good for younger students. So again, you know, we're very, at this moment in time, part of the reason for the whole conference is to help with how we tackle the blended learning approach. And for those younger students, and more importantly, the parents who are supporting them, Seesaw is a really accessible, easy to use tool, available on any phone, any device. And it's just fantastic. It really, really is.
Excellent. For what it's worth, I think I probably agree with the three of you in your choices. I think Slides just edges Classroom probably for me, and my favorite app. Teams, which I've become far more familiar with in the last few months, having now done our MCE qualification this week, and certainly Seesaw is an excellent tool whilst using iPads. Okay, I believe that's all the questions that we've had in advance and in the live chat. It's bringing us up almost to our virtual lunch break, if you like. So I'm going to hand over to Matt to wrap up the morning session. Oh, please. Thanks all.
Thanks, Ryan. And thanks to Dean and Beth there as well. And Ryan did a fantastic job hosting all those sessions there with the score cases. Well done. That's right. Okay, so it's just for me now to close out the morning. Firstly, thank you very much for watching and attending. We really hope that you enjoyed the session. I'd like to pass on thanks to Derek for providing the keynote, to Kelly, obviously showcasing Microsoft tools, to Reese on the Apple side of things, and Scott looking at Google. Now, in terms of what we have for the afternoon, we will be ending this broadcast in about 4 minutes' time, and we will be able to have a look at our next session, which is all around digital empowerment. And we're looking at professional development in particular. We have a brilliant session from John Tate. He's going to be providing our keynote to the afternoon. And then about 1:45, we're going to break off into some live sessions. So those live sessions are webinars that the A2B team will be delivering, showcasing tools from each of G Suite, Microsoft, and Apple. They will be live. They will be able to accept questions, so please tune in for those. You can access everything you need in terms of all the different webinar links in particular and resources on our resource hub. So the resource hub is, think of it as your directory. You can access that, and if you want to jump between different webinars, you are absolutely more than welcome to. And just finally, I just wanted to highlight, because we've talked about it several times, and as did Derek and Scott as well, and we talked about it in the clinic, is Aspire Ed, which is our online learning platform. Now, just like every other school, organization, business, we've had to adapt quite quickly in terms of how we can support not just our current clients, but also future as well. So we developed an online learning platform mainly to provide high-level teacher-focused professional development in these strange times where we are all working remotely. As part of the conference today, we would like to offer anyone as an individual and any school looking for a subscription a discount on any of the courses that are available. Okay, so you'll see there's a code there for you to use as an individual, but if you're any schools who are looking for some cost-effective high quality CPD, which can be delivered remotely and also tracked from an administration perspective so you can support, please use that code and we'd be more than happy to help. But as I say, to kick things off in the afternoon, John will start and then we'll be offering a little taster into some of the courses that we're able to provide you as well. So that pretty much rounds it off from me. Once again, thank you very, very much for watching, and we will see you later on this afternoon. Thanks. Bye for now.